Well, we're live? All right. Good afternoon. This is Tina Desiree Berg. I'm reporting live for Status Coup News. We are currently at the Ford Wayne facility. This is one of the original facilities that went on strike at the beginning before Sean Fain added the 38. Biden will be heading here momentarily. He just landed at the Willow Run Airport, which is about 15 minutes away from here. He's going to do some speaking there. And our understanding is he's going to come by here and talk to the workers. He's currently with Sean Fain, Debbie Dingell, Rashida Tlaib is with them. He was greeted by them at the airport. So we're just going to be out here. We're going to be talking to workers. Obviously, Trump is coming into town. Cornel West is coming into town. So we have all the politicians coming by the picket line trying to get the UAW vote and endorsement. None of these politicians have been particularly pro-labor. I would say Trump is less pro-labor than Biden is, but Biden, hasn't gone all the way yet either. We had the PRO Act that was going through Congress, came out of the House of Representatives, passed, and then it sat in the Senate dying. Part of the reason that the Democratic Party gives is that they don't have a filibuster-proof vote in the Senate, so unless they have a filibuster-proof vote, they can't get anything done. This is true. However, they also don't want to get rid of the filibuster, so you end up going back around in a circle. Trump is going to be speaking Wednesday night at a non-union facility. That's right, a non-union facility. He wants to address UAW workers at a non-union facility. So I'm not sure how he makes the case that what he's doing is particularly pro-labor. A couple days ago, he said that Sean Fain was selling the membership out down the river. I don't see how that's true. He's a very popular president. The workers are with Sean Fain. They understand that he is definitely trying to, get them better contracts, everything they gave up back in 2008, 2009, cost of living, getting rid of the temporary to permanent tiers. We have talked to workers that are literally working as temporary workers for 5 to 7 years. They get switched over to full-time, and then they lose $2 an hour. So really bad stuff going on there as far as labor. So Detroit Free Press, I wanted to give an update on this. They said this morning a source familiar with negotiations who has asked to not be named because they are not authorized to be quoted in the media, said throughout the weekend the union and Ford had very active talks, but there are some key issues to go. And as for GM and Stellantis, the source said that the union was not seeing the same movement as with Ford, but that things were fluid and communication remained open. So as of now, Ford did come back to the table where Stellantis and GM did not, with an agreement. Ford has agreed to bring back COLA. They have agreed to eliminate the tiers. They have agreed to switch people from part-time to full-time within 90 days. And they have also agreed to allow strikes at the plant closures, which is a big win, I think. That is about job security. It makes very little sense to have all these increases in pay, COLA back, et cetera, if you don't have a job left. And part of what the union's arguing is we need job security in addition to that. So that's part of that. So we're going to continue to talk to workers here on the picket line as we wait for Biden's cavalcade to come by. Justin. Which Justin? We have two Justins here, actually. Justin 1 and Justin 2. The Justin team. You guys, you can join us if you'd like. I know you talked to Jordan the last time, but... So, Justin A, Justin B, please introduce yourselves. Tell us how long you've worked here at the Ford facility and what your main issues are as far as the contract negotiations are going.
Well, so I'm pretty brand new. I'll be 5 months on the 1st of October. As far as the issues, as far as the contract goes, it's mostly pay, at least for me specifically. There's a lot of things I'd like to see changed as far as retirement. I do have family in the UAW. So I would like to see some retirement changes as far as the retirement. I'd like to have a pension. I'd like to see the stuff that was taken away from the concessions from 2008 onward that brought back. Those things were promised back, so those things really should have been returned without really any question. It shouldn't be a fight.
And Justin number 2.
Justin L. Ford.
Thank you.
Yep.
So how long have you been here at the Ford?
7 years, and I've been at this facility for 3.5 years.
So now you've been here 5 months, but you worked at a previous UAW place, right? You were a welder, I think you were saying.
So that wasn't that was non-union. The last shop was non-union. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so is this your first time being in a union shop?
So the first time, no. I've done. I was a contractor. I was a hydroblaster. That was operators union. Then we used to come to plants like this. It's actually one of the only plants that we didn't service, but we service pretty much everyone else. JNAP. was it Romeo Engine, pretty much almost all of those plants.
And now, you're full-time now, did you have whoa, hang on, we got union ice cream coming in. I guess it's free for union members. That's awesome. So how long was it before you became full-time? Were you one of these transitional employees that sort of had to go through this long period of time as a part-timer or temporary supplemental?
So I did talk about in an interview previous that I went through various types of different being a temp, and it was started with being a short-term supplementary, and that was about 7 months, and they could have done anything with me at that point. They could have just cut me loose. They send you anywhere where they need you. You really have no choice in it. And then after that, I went to a different facility, and I was a temporary part-time employee. So I could only work 3 days out of the week, and it's kind of what I had to do until I got hired in as full-time, and that could have been years.
Yeah, in some cases it is years.
Yeah.
So you could only work 3 days a week. I've talked to other part-timers that are being forced to work 6 days a week. How does that get decided?
We don't know. There is no rhyme or reason. It's when they need you and they want to hire you and flip you over. But the whole point is they want to keep you a temp so you don't get to have all the benefits of being a full-time or legacy employee. It's this game that they play. And they got to stop playing it. So.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. We keep talking to various individuals, and they all have a different story. And I try to put this all together in my brain, and none of it seems consistent to me. Like none of it's good, but it's not consistent either in the way they make decisions. So we're waiting for Biden to drive by. You've got Donald Trump, the ex-president, coming in on Wednesday night. Dr. Cornel West, who is running as a Green Party candidate, will be here tomorrow. So everybody's coming by to talk to you guys, do their photo ops, whatnot. How do you feel about, you don't have to get into the nuts and bolts of what party you support or why, but how do you feel about politicians in general? Do you think labor is getting a fair shake from politicians, or do you think they're just giving you lip service? Like, what are your feelings on that?
I think there's too much money in politics, just in general. It doesn't matter which side, whether it's red or blue or in between. There's too much money in politics, and I don't think that really the regular working person, just in general, is going to get a fair shake until we start changing some policy to take that money out of politics. It's just that simple.
I think a lot of politics shouldn't be involved in the working class. A lot of them haven't worked a day in their life, and it's just as our business. It's about us right now.
Yeah, Sean Fain made the point the other day saying that somebody that's a millionaire or billionaire doesn't understand what it's like to be in the working class, so they inherently don't know what your best interests are. But almost every politician that we have is in the millionaire or billionaire class. That's just how it is. So there needs to be a fundamental shift, perhaps, in who we vote for and why. That makes sense to me. So we'll see what happens next. If I think what Sean's basically saying is if you want the UAW endorsement, you're going to have to do more than do a photo op. You're going to have to actually show us with your actions that you
feel that way. I think Sean Fain, the union, they're not going to endorse Biden without him earning it. I don't think they're going to endorse Trump in general. We know his history. But yeah, he's going to have to earn that endorsement. It's just that simple.
Well, let me ask you this one quick thing on the sidebar on that. Trump is actually going to be speaking at a non-union facility. I don't understand how he can address union workers at a non-union facility and still come off as being pro-labor. It seems to me like, what are you trying to make a play for right to work? Like, what's going on here? Do you have any thoughts on that? If you can't talk about it, that's fine. I get it. But if you can.
No, I don't think that Trump is pro-labor. I mean, it's just that simple. He's got a history, a very, very long, sordid history of not paying his workers. He's got a lot of people kind of chomping at the bit, trying to get paid as it is now. He's not paying his lawyers. As far as labor is concerned, it doesn't matter where he goes to speak. None of us are going to believe it.
Lots of people driving by and honking in support. I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not. About the Trump speaking at a non-union.
It's very strange, if he was trying to get with the union and you're going to a non-union shop, that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. So I don't know really what he's aiming for there.
I don't either. I find it, I'm puzzled by it. I want to
Yeah.
actually read just quickly basically a quote. You can comment on it if you want to or not. Okay, so this is a quote that Trump made back in 2008 after you guys gave all of your concessions away. You literally bailed out your employers. They were facing bankruptcy. They came to you saying, if we don't get some concessions here, we're not going to be around. UAW came to the table, but it was also under the guise that they would give you back all of those things, whether it was coal or the cost of living, pensions went away. The tier thing came into play. That was never supposed to turn into a 7-year gig for somebody, but that's where they were at. All right, but let me read you this because I think this is very telling. He said, unions get their little 5%, they get another 2%, they get another 3%, 4%. All of a sudden, they're making more money than the people that own the company. This was his comment 2 weeks after the deal you guys made back in 2008. Does that sound like a pro-union?
It's very strange.
Well, here's the thing. Once again, as we were discussing earlier, mathematically that doesn't add up in the slightest. I mean, you could make it 100%, 200%, 300%. We would still not be touching even remotely close to. I mean, literally, it's a fraction of a percent of the CEO's pay. If you doubled my pay, it wouldn't be a fraction of what they make in like 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
So,
in 10 or 15 minutes,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a delusional statement. Their wealth is just sickening. It's just so much. You don't need to make that much money.
No.
It's too much.
And in fact, if you look at the labor data, CEO pay since 1978 has gone up over 1,300%. So when Mari Barra or some of these CEOs say what you're asking for isn't tenable, I sort of feel like, well, what you've been doing isn't entirely tenable. The income inequality in the country is absolutely outrageous. We cannot continue down this way. You will have no expendable income left in which to buy the things that drive the economy, right? Consumer-based economies need consumption. If you take away all the pay, and yeah, it's short-term thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the fact that we have a billionaire class at all, in general, is already a sign of failure in the way that we structure things, just altogether. There really shouldn't be any billionaires. And if there's billionaires, it means that you're a failure. You failed something somewhere along the way.
I would say every billionaire is a policy failure. I think that's true. You don't become a billionaire by playing by the rules. You don't. We could also look at things like insider trading, where they know we're, and your average American does not have access to that. I love this guy has got the ice cream out. It's raining today here. We've been having rain. Is kind of a respite now, but
Insider trading, because a lot of these, I mean, there's a conflict. Legalized insider trading. A lot of these politicians who actually have their hands on the buttons, they're the ones that own the stocks in these companies. I mean, if you own stocks in Halliburton, why should you have the control to be able to decide whether we sign contracts with Halliburton? That's absolutely bonkers to me. And that's the same thing with any other industry. There should be absolutely no way that you should be carrying stocks in something you have control over.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. It's a bit ridiculous.
sometimes that's all you have to say. Speaking of insider trading and stock ownership, whatnot, Congress, why aren't they barred from owning stock? They should be, in my opinion. Congress is, in charge of making, obviously, the laws of the land. They know what's going to happen in the country more than you do, I do, or anybody else does.
It's insider trading. That is insider trading, literally. It's not even just that. You're actually controlling the market. The same thing with stock buybacks. That is just another form of insider trading, and that was illegal. And then for some reason, that became not illegal. So, I mean, once again, you got people that walk into an OPEC meeting and leave millionaires later on. It's real. So
Sean was saying, we interviewed him the other day, and he was saying that buybacks are up 1,500% over the last 4 years, and this was something you didn't see prior. You're right. So this just basically gooses the price of your stock short term. It doesn't necessarily add any value or anything to the long-term health of the company, right? But if you're getting paid on the performance of the stock, there's definitely an incentive there as a CEO to get that price up quickly, and you're going to get bonuses on that, right? So let's just buy more stock off the open market and goose the price. But again, there's only so much runway that you have on these sorts of things. What they should be investing in, if you want a long-term healthy company, is your labor, is your quality of your manufacturing plants, et cetera, et cetera. So it seems like eventually that it will run out of runway as well. Pensions, I want to talk a little bit about for a minute, because there seems to be a consensus that we would all love to have pensions come back. I know I would, you would probably, but that maybe that ship sailed. What are your thoughts on the pensions?
I think that the companies are hoping that the ship that pensions ride on has sailed. I think that's one of the reasons why they're fighting it, because pretty much all industries have given up pensions except for state-run, union jobs, things like the post office and whatnot. So I think that they're hoping that ship has sailed. It's a lot cheaper for them to pay out a small amount on the 401k. But I think most of us know, especially within the last couple of years, how 401ks have actually performed. That can be a complete win. It can be a windfall, or it could be a complete failure. So I mean, that's not a reasonable, replacement at all. No, it's not a reasonable. It's not a benefit. You know what I mean? A benefit would be to have a pension, what these people fought for years.
Yeah, I'd like to see the pension come back, but it's going to be a very rare occurrence to see if it does. They've been trying to get rid of the pension for everybody now for a long time. They just want you to work until you're, 80 years old, and they don't want you to take a break. So, I don't know. It might have sailed, but hopefully maybe we'll get it back.
Yeah, no, and you're right. This is it, not just United Auto Workers. This is the entire country that's looking at. So it's going to take a big push across all labor. So you both are employees of Ford. Ford did come to the table where Stellantis and GM have not yet,
yeah.
Right? So they've given you back your COLA. They agree that you need cost of living pay increases. They've agreed to eliminate the tiers and make it a 90-day transition from part-time to full-time. And they've also agreed to allow you to strike at plants that they're looking to close, which I think is a big concession. How do you feel about the negotiations thus far up to now?
Well, I think that the only thing that as far as like permanent plant closures, that only really kind of tells us that Ford's strategy isn't really to close any plants within the next 4 years. So that's good news regardless. That's good news regardless. As far as the way that Ford is coming to the table, I'm glad that they are. I can see what's happening with our brothers at Stellantis and with GM, and they had to have charges filed against them just to come to the table in good faith. So I mean, that's just really absurd. Ford's they've made a pretty decent offer so far. I'd like to see a little more as far as the pay. Like I said, I would like to see our pensioners. I'd like to see them get a raise. They haven't received a raise, and I think it was like over 10 years. So like the inflation at 20% just over the last 4 years, you got to imagine how it's like to live on that. I know what it's like to live on what they get. So like it's almost not feasible. Yeah, it's almost not feasible.
Yeah, I know as of before that, where they brought up that the plant closures, they didn't have anything in effect. So if they just wanted to close something, then they just closed it. You weren't striking or doing anything. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. I'd like to see a little more for that, because a lot of these companies, they like to get really do a little bit of retaliatory to kind of, when they sign on these big contracts, then the next thing you know, a month or two later, something goes to Mexico, and I've seen stuff like that happen. So there needs to be something in effect in that nature to kind of stop that, that bad nature of, well, we're going to get you guys back because you got this record-breaking contract. John Deere did that.
When they went to Canada.
Yeah.
GM, what was it, back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, they moved a bunch of operations over to Canada just simply because they have lower tax rates, and and
then
John Deere, I know, did something like that, where they signed on that record-breaking contract, and like something a month or two later, right after that, they moved something down to Mexico. It didn't shut them down, but it was just still product that got moved. So it was kind of like an FU to the working people after that voted that in, because they were mad.
Yeah. So, on that same note, tax incentives come into play. Government invests in manufacturing plants because, the corporations say we're going to bring jobs to your city. So if you help us, taxpayer money goes into, making this plant, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, they keep lending money to these companies without any real labor strings attached to that. If the government's going to make a loan to Ford, why shouldn't they have a requirement from Ford that you cannot outsource any more jobs? And let's be clear, jobs have been outsourced, no matter who's president, at a consistent rate since NAFTA. you can go back and you can look at this data and see for yourself. So both parties are involved in this, right? It's not one or the other, and it's pretty damn consistent across the board. And these are good paying American jobs. So what are your thoughts on that? Should the government, if they're giving taxpayer money to a corporation, should there be requirements that they bring jobs back to the United States, or in the very least preserve the ones that are here?
Well, I think that unfortunately, what we have a lot of rhetoric and a lot of dog whistling, as far as immigration is concerned, as far as foreign exchange, as far as like as far as like our dealings with other countries. And I think there's a lot of purposeful confusion as far as that's concerned. Yes, I absolutely, as far as jobs should be staying here, and there should be some requirements. There should have been requirements in 2008 when Stellantis, well, at the time I think it was Daimler, when Daimler and GM got their handouts from the government, their bailout from the government, and there was really very little stipulation. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime that any company, that includes even Verizon, when they got a huge kickback to set up FiOS, billions of dollars from the government. There always should be some type of expectation when the government is giving money for any kind of big company like that.
I agree with what he said.
You're going to endorse that? Yeah. I mean, it's almost like they're privatizing the profits and putting the public part for the risk on the taxpayer, and they do it. And we saw it in banking industry too, right? Oh, yeah. So we're going to put all the risk onto the U.S. taxpayer, but we're going to keep all the profits, even though we didn't have to take the risk. I think that's sort of the attitude that corporate America is taking towards not only labor but also the taxpayers. Let's be clear. This is just them being grubby, right? We're going to extract as much wealth as we can from the economy while we can.
I remember Fannie Mae. Yeah. I remember that whole situation with Fannie Mae. Right? So no, absolutely.
And in fact, one of the things that came out from that, there was a Citigroup memo that was leaked by some Citigroup employees. And it was pretty appalling. I think you can find it online still, but they were basically talking about the American public as being asleep and stupid, and they refer to the wealthy, at least the 1%, as the plutonomy. And they said as long as the plutonomy can keep the American public asleep at the wheel, we can keep extracting as much wealth as we want to. And that is sort of, the attitude of how they see things, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's literally what they're doing. Why dismantle our educational system? Why hire somebody who for example, why take somebody on who we already have a proven track record wants schools that don't have any type of government regulation? We do that because if our schools are garbage, then people are stupid. And then people make stupid decisions. And they'll listen to all of that dog whistle rhetoric that we hear on the news, all of that stuff. Absolutely.
What's that?
Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, yes. Wholeheartedly.
Let's talk about that. Dog whistling rhetoric is definitely part of it, right? So instead of actually addressing the fact that it's corporations chasing lower wages, that's what it is, right? They're allowed to do it. They're going to do it. And oftentimes they're exploiting workers on the other side of that fence. So these guys aren't benefiting either, right? This is just the plutonomy being the plutonomy, so to speak. But what the media does instead, or what some politicians do instead, is they turn into a xenophobic dog whistle, right? So it's not our fault. It's not the rich guy's fault that you're losing money. It's the immigrants' fault. They're taking your jobs from you, or whatever it is, or poor people in general. So they're flipping the switch on that. They use it as a form of propaganda, really, to be frank. But that is very common. Why is it that some workers fall into that trap? I think fewer are. I think more Americans are seeing it for what it is. And I think that's partly why we have an awakening in the labor movement right now across the board. Not just with United Auto Workers. We have lots of people. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, about the awakening, I think there's places all over now that are just striking. And I think that's what it is an awakening. Everybody's sick of it, and then we've been taking it. And they want us to take it like good little boys and girls, and we're not doing it no more. And now they're freaking out and running all over like, oh, wow, they're actually doing this. We didn't think they were going to do that. And now we're doing it, so we're here. Yeah.
As far as that subject's concerned, I don't think it's any one small thing. I think that the reason why we have a lot of issues with all that dog whistling rhetoric is because you have people that have grown up under certain racist pretenses, xenophobic pretenses, So this is something that they've gotten propaganda from their own family, people close within their family. You combine that too with making people angry. I mean, it seems to be that the whole goal in most of this is to just make people angry. If you can make people angry enough, people won't really think about a lot of other things. It's a distraction. You know what I mean? If you can make people angry enough about, who's going to the bathroom or what bathroom, then maybe you won't think about the fact that we're only paying everybody $60 and $67 an hour. You know what I mean? We can always create some type of distraction, and then we won't pay attention to changing laws on how stocks can be exchanged in government. It's been going on for a long time. It's just gotten really bad, and it's gotten bad enough now where we're all hungry at this point. And when you get people hungry, they all of a sudden start getting a lot smarter. That's why I saw this coming years ago, because as the pay starts going lower and the food starts getting more expensive, I mean, people are literally... I have a family of 5. It costs me the better part of $800 a month just for groceries. For groceries. Yeah, absolutely. That's Aldi's. That's absolutely like the cheapest of the cheapest I can possibly get my hand. It's $800.
Mine would be double.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It would be double that. Easily.
Yeah, at a normal grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
Meijer,
Double that.
Kroger actually is even worse than Meijer, I think. Usually it's...
Yep.
Well, actually, Kroger's probably going to be looking at some strikes, too. They've got a merger coming up. A lot of it comes from consolidation, right? You've seen it in the auto industry, obviously. Stellantis is a major multinational company, started with an American company, merging with an Italian company, merging with a French company. This is what gives them more leverage against workers, right? Because they are so large. They've eliminated the competition by gobbling it up. Yeah. And when there's less competition, this is what happens. I think part of the problem, too, is the Department of Justice has not been enforcing antitrust for a couple of decades now. They're starting to again. They are absolutely getting on the ball again. But I think allowing these large conglomerates to come to fruition is also contributing to the problem, and it's enriching the 1% or the wealthy elites, as you like to say. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's true. They wouldn't. The 1% just wants things to be the way it is. They don't want that to change. They don't want the formula to change. And now the formula is. We're putting in the Formula X now to the plans. So, yeah.
So what I find really, really humorous about this is that we're talking about Mexico and jobs being retaliated and being sent to Mexico. We're Stellantis is Mexico. These countries have unions for all of these jobs. Yeah. They're grocery stores. It's not just Kroger over there. It's every grocery store. They're almost all union. They come here. At this point, that's where we're at. We are the third world country. We're not the first world country to them. So I find that super humorous it's not even surprising in the least that the way that the COO responded when we initially, when the mayor initially came to the table, it didn't shock me at all that he would be that brazen.
Tell people what that was, if they don't know.
So the COO for Stellantis, I don't remember his name. He went on an interview wearing a $13,000 watch in his second mansion in Acapulco to discuss about how we were greedy, asking for what we were asking for our initial demands. He rejected every single thing that the union was asking for outright and offered absolutely nothing in response to it, which is, again, one of the reasons why they got themselves into trouble, is there was absolutely no good faith.
I got to tell you, the Stellantis CEO has been very audacious in what he is saying and doing. I want to point out, though, this is a little reported fact. 2 years ago, 21, the shareholders in Stellantis did not approve his CEO pay package because they thought it was too high. So majority of the shareholders said no. The board of directors overrode it anyway. But I mean, it's really crazy to me that this guy, who's got millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of stock options on top of his, millions and millions of dollars of pay, is calling anybody greedy. Are you kidding me? How can he do that with a straight face? Like, what planet? It's just kind of wild to me that are they all so insular that they don't hear or see how that sounds and looks?
I think the best way to deal with that situation is to put them on the line.
Yeah.
Give them the opportunity. No, they literally don't even have that mindset. You know what I mean? They asked a certain particular politician what it was like to buy milk. He didn't even know. what it was like to buy milk. I mean, I know we know what politician I'm talking about, but the gentleman didn't even know how to buy groceries.
Servants do that. The servants are doing that.
These people are so detached from reality. They're so they're just not. They're not in the same league, and they just don't know. And honestly, we'd all be a whole lot better if we could give them a 5-10 hour work week and let them really see before they call us greedy.
Right? No, it's true. I mean, I'm sort of having a flashback to the Dr. Oz crudité moment where he was going to the grocery store and complaining about crudité, and everybody's like, crudité, dude, those are just cut vegetables. You can buy them in a bag or cut them yourself. Like, but this is how detached from the reality are. He thought he would put this video out there in the universe, and all the working class people were like, yeah, bro, we feel you. You know, that's really bizarre to me. So I want to ask you about profit sharing plans. Those are being floated now as something that could be looked at if you don't get your pensions. Obviously, this again is not a guarantee in income, right? But it would be like a bonus. So if the company's profitable, and I think some of the contracts already have this, right? Profit sharing.
Ford. There were in the highlights that Ford recently made changes to the profit sharing formula, which is a step in the right direction, and it looked pretty good. So, as in for GM and Stellantis, there's been no movement. Yep.
Yeah, they did. I think they increased it up to, I think it was like 33% over what it was previously, or something like that. So, I mean, like I said, we've been seeing a lot of positive change with Ford. I'm happy to see Ford. Even if we're not exactly where we want to be quite yet, I am happy to see Ford going back and forth. And there actually is some communication. And the union, this time around, like I said, like we all know that the structure's changed as far as like how they hire the president. So I'm really, really happy with how transparent they're being with the membership in general. As far as that's concerned, we know kind of what's going on with Ford. Every time there's a proposal, we can look up on Facebook, and it's completely plastered all down my page. So we know kind of what's going on, and it's in a good direction.
I would say this about Ford as well. They have a lower CEO to average worker pay, like markedly much lower, like 50 or 60 points lower than the Stellantis CEO's pay. So less income inequality there. I also want to sort of wonder, is it because Ford family is still involved with the company? They're less of a, hold on.
What was that?
I know, right? I'm sorry, you're probably not hearing a word I'm saying. Do you think it's partially because the Ford family is still involved in the company and their name is attached to it? They do care about that. Is it also because I think Ford has deeper ties to the state of Michigan in a way that the other companies do not? What are your thoughts on that?
It's in their best interest because they are family owned. So that's kind of on our side. They want to kind of be on the best side of the Michigan residents because a lot of their business here is in Michigan. You know, like Ford, when you think of Ford, you think Motor City and Dearborn and all this stuff. So it would be foolish of them to annihilate their probably number one buyers in really the world. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with him. Ford is, especially with their trucks, Ford is really well known for being an American-made product. So it's not quite the same thing as with Stellantis where you can move away and maybe get away with it. I don't think Stellantis would get away with that with Jeep, for example. Jeep is a very, very long history with America. Ford trucks, I mean, they've been some of the best-selling trucks for the last 60 years. They've always been American-made trucks. So, you know, you can't really get away with that the same thing. You wouldn't be able to market it the same way either. And it's been their marketing, methodology for as long as I've been alive. So
speaking of, you folks are also consumers. You're not just employees of Ford. You're not just union members. You're consumers as well. What do you make of some of the business media trying to say that you're harming consumers by going on strike? How do you feel about that?
It's really not really. It's not us. I mean, the prices have been gouged up since the beginning of COVID, and it has had nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do, because this is 3 years later now. COVID has been 3.5 years now, and they did this whole supply shortage to absolutely price gouge the vehicles, which they're still doing, and I don't agree with it. I think it's horrible. I mean, $100,000 for a car is just insanity. It's insanity. For a truck, come on. That's a house. That's a house. It used to be a house. Excuse me. But, I mean, even like leases now are crazy. If you want to finance something now, The interest rates are insane. Even if you have good credit and even if you're putting down a lot of money, they want just an absurd amount of money.
Yeah, that's a big thing for Michigan, actually. I'm glad he mentioned the insurance rate. So Michigan usually teeters between Michigan and New Jersey as far as like highest insurance rates across the country. It is extremely high. I know I'm 40 years old. I have no accidents since I was like 19 or 20, and no moving violations. And for full coverage insurance on our vehicles, I wanted to say it was like $400 a month.
A month?
A month, close to it. Yeah, 366 on my Malibu LT. Yeah, 366.
Okay, that is really high. I live in California, and I thought California was bad. I don't pay anywhere near that. Jeez, what are they basing that on? Like they're saying it's risk.
So for me, it was locality. There was a lot more accidents, I think, in my particular locality, but Michigan as a whole, it's a no-fault state, so that's a big part of it too as well. But yeah, really, it's whatever they want to charge. They can charge, especially with it being here in Michigan, it's a legal requirement. A lot of states it isn't. In Michigan, it's a legal requirement, so you can really essentially charge people whatever you want to charge them. And I think the state is 70% uninsured. It's like 60 or 70% of certain areas are uninsured or underinsured.
We're getting some smoke here from the fire.
Yeah, the smoke has been brutal on me.
Well, you know, the fire it gets going, and then it starts to rain, and then it gets a little smoky because of the rain. Shoot. I want to ask you on that note about inflation. You sort of touched on this with what you were saying. Hold on, wait till. I love that they're in solidarity, though. Inflation. I want to talk about inflation for a minute. So people try to make it like CNBC, some of the business news, that inflation is tied to wage increases. You increase wages, that means more inflation. You're shaking your head because I agree with you.
Yeah.
We right now are looking at a situation where auto workers have had 2 decades of suppressed wages. If you look at the Bureau of Labor data on this, it's about 20% down for the last 2 decades, adjusted for inflation. Obviously, you're out here striking. Your wages have not increased yet the cost of these cars is through the roof. That is price gouging. That is the only explanation for it. The company knows that they can get more money for these trucks, so they're going to take the profits. They're going to do it.
Yeah.
So how can they, I guess my question is, how can they consider to keep making this argument that it's about wages when it's clearly not? It's obvious it's not.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's better.
So, yeah, I mean, wages have went up, but I mean, even the way that they've went up, the inflation has still been superseding that, and even if, yeah, they have made the wage increases, but it's well before that. It's been going up and it's been on the rise, and now that we need to get this huge wage increase to match that. See, what they think we're asking too much, but they're not realizing that's where we need to be at now to live comfortably, to live healthy, and you can go buy the groceries you need for your 5 kids and not feel like you took a loan for the week to feed someone.
Yeah, no, so every time prices go up, I don't know how it works where you guys are coming from. But here in Michigan, McDonald's used to have a $1 menu, right? And you used to have a double cheeseburger, and that double cheeseburger was $1. And then they made that McDouble $1, and so on and so forth. There is no $1 menu anymore. Now, every time that they raise that price, I always just made it a point to ask the person in the window, did they change your pay? Did they raise you up? No, they didn't raise you up. And sometimes they'd have a seat. Remember when eggs went up? When eggs went up, that memo got released that there was an anticipation of avian flu. There was no avian flu. So the prices actually did come back down on that. They make these excuses. I think Burger King, it was tomatoes at one point. They had a shortage in tomatoes or bad tomato crop. But then when tomato crops got better, did the price go down? No. They never raised their employees. It never changed. So they basically what they do is they set a point in the market. Right now, this is getting like this because now they've reached a point where now it's becoming unsustainable anymore.
No, you're not wrong. So if it's not the wage increases driving inflation, it's supply chain issues with tomatoes. They always have reasons for it, excuses. And there might be a grain of truth in some of it, but it's not the only explanation. And they are clearly milking the situation to extract more profits. That's really obvious to anybody that's paying attention. So on that note, what else do you see in the media, that stuff they report on that just makes you crazy because it's not entirely true? maybe even outwardly just completely wrong. I couldn't get that out. But is there anything that you would want to correct in that area?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're being really patronized. They're expecting that we don't know how to do 5-digit or 6-digit math, that we can't pull out a calculator and we can't see. The car companies can't afford it. They can't afford. No, we can actually add this up. We know that they can afford it. You know what I mean? They could afford to give us what we were asking initially. We always decide to try to shoot for the moon and then meet somewhere in the middle. But they really could afford to give us what we were asking. I don't think it's really all that unfair. You know what I mean? They could absolutely afford it. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. You know what I mean? 1/29th of that would have been enough to give us actually everything we're demanding.
You could say we're not asking for enough at this point.
That's sort of it, right? So they're saying this 40% number, but when you sort of break down what's happened over the last few decades, that 40% doesn't seem all that scary, right? So if your wages are suppressed by 20% the last 2 decades because they haven't kept pace with the cost of living or inflation, that's your first 20%. That just sort of makes you sort of whole, if even. And now you're saying, like, okay, we need, prices are going up and we need not even.
So I don't know if you know, because this is Michigan's poverty line. For a family my size, the Michigan poverty line, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to look again, it's almost $60,000 for my family size. So at my pay rate, if I get hired in, which I should be, like I said, that's I think $18 an hour is where that starts out at. So $18, 40% on that $18 is what? $6. So you'd be like at $24, $25 an hour. That would be on an 80-hour or a 40-hour work week. You're talking not even the poverty level. Yeah.
Yes, for them to say that getting $24 an hour is massive greed is ridiculous. I see what you're saying.
No, yeah, it's going to bring them to their knees.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're not even above that. Right now, I work at an auto plant. Remember, these jobs were the sought-after jobs. I work at an auto plant. I qualify for food stamps. Like, literally qualify for food stamps. So, I mean, that tells you something.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I think especially Stellantis is really paying low. Like, they're the most egregious. And then they don't want to have it where you can flip temps over. They want to keep doing that. They want to add more tiers, like our president said. I think Ford will end that. I think Ford is going to lead the way. I think it looks like, but the GM and Stellantis, they're going to be in for a long haul, I think.
Yeah, it seems that is the case. Ford seems to be more willing, and again, I think it's because the family name is still attached. This is their base of operations. They have very much connected
These are
to
the 2 best-selling vehicles that they had, right? The Ranger and the Bronco. So they're, oh well, though. This is what we had to do.
I want to talk, one last thing I want to ask you about. We've talked to a lot of workers, and I think you've mentioned this too, that are working second jobs just to make ends meet. So they have their job here at Ford or GM Stellantis, and then they have to go work at DoorDash or, Uber or, other things. Pretty common, right?
No, extremely common. I would say, so even if I was living on my own, I'm not really sure that I'd be able to actually afford to really live or thrive on the amount of pay that we were getting, just the base pay. I would have to say probably the better part of 90% of us, at least the TFTs, are doing something like that, DoorDash or whatnot. Probably a lot more of us are doing it now, too, that we're on strike, that we have the time to do it. But, yeah, you have to. You know what I mean? It's just that's the I think my paychecks, a lot of times, they're under $500 a week. So, it's physically not possible. You know what I mean? We're all behind. The rent's behind, the bills are behind, the DT's, the power bill.
Yeah, and on top of that, $500, and it's bad. And you're working your ass off completely. I mean, you're so sore and tired. And you're like, damn, did I really earn? I mean, is that what I'm worth? To $500 to have my body totally broken? This stuff is damaging in here. There's people getting carpal tunnel. Our hands hurt. You're on your feet all day. People get knee replacements. It's no joke. It's no joke.
Yeah, I think some of the pieces you guys lift are weigh is what I meant. Weigh insane amounts of pounds. So yeah, that's really hard on your body. How common are these injuries, would you say?
Well, I mean, my mom can be a good example. She had about 10 years of Ford and then about 27 with Chrysler, and she's had 2 knee replacements. She has fibromyalgia. She was around in the times where they still had asbestos in the buildings. My dad and I think and her were in there at the time where they didn't believe in fans, so there were no fans. That ended fast. And imagine that in one of these 100-degree buildings. They didn't believe in fans. People really don't understand like how bad it really was. I mean, it's gotten better. It has gotten better, but ergonomically, we're still kind of not there where we need to be. That it's not damaging. You know, we still have some work to do in that department.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're improving as far as they do have ergonomic plans. They are improving that. You know, people that are taller obviously do jobs that make sense for people that are taller, people that are short. So that kind of stuff you used to not be like that. I mean, you used to have a footstool and somebody would have to jump on that. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we hear stories of that all the time. My wife's grandmother is bedridden. She's only in her 60s or early 70s. Bedridden, just completely.
Talk with us actually a little bit right now. We're looking at some of these trucks that are coming into the facility. Are these scabs that I know that GM and some of the other companies were getting ready to hire salaried workers to replace those. These are scabs.
These are scabs. They have no business crossing the line, and this is what they get, and this is what they deserve. And there's so many people out here now, it's hard to stop them from doing this. And you know, they got to let them in, but I don't think we should let them in at all. They should just sit out here because they're scum.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, these are Teamster. This is a Teamster job. They're taking Teamster jobs.
Let's talk about that for a second. In fact, we were up in Marysville yesterday, and the Teamsters, the UPS, they are not crossing the lines, they said. They haven't seen any Teamsters up at their plant. Oh, yeah. What they are seeing is this company from Canada that's been coming instead.
Yeah, they'll grab them. So from what I've been hearing, they've been doing is they've been picking up with the scab drivers, and then those are delivered to UPS, and then UPS does the final leg. That's what I've been hearing they've been doing. So for us, I don't know.
So are these guys bringing in parts? Are they taking things out? Do we have any idea who they are or why?
We don't know what they're doing. Something's going on. They're probably moving some parts here or there, or they're replenishing parts because there has been a part shortage in the auto industry. Some of this stuff might be running. This building in particular, they do make subcomponents for the F-150, and as we know, the F-150 plant isn't down, so they do want to keep it running. So then they have these guys coming. They have these outsourced scab people coming in and doing stuff and being shady, and they have no business crossing the line, and they are. This is what they deserve.
Yeah. The other day, they actually almost hit somebody that wasn't moving. For a minute, it looked pretty...
that wouldn't be good.
No, yeah. I know, right?
No, it was I think it was one of the salary guys, but I was actually just crossing over. He literally actually hit me as I was going across. Yeah, I got his license plate on. But yeah, no, they don't.
The salaried workers, it seems kind of crazy to me that they're going to try to bring in these salaried workers, have them work your jobs. They tried to do the same thing at John Deere. You mentioned John Deere earlier. And it was actually an absolute disaster for John Deere because these folks didn't really know what they were doing. Yeah. There were forklifts being driven into walls.
Oh, yeah.
That cost the company a lot of money.
Exactly. That goes to show you exactly that these people, they really, really do value our work. They really do value our skill, what we do. They really think that we're just peons, that we're just, anybody can do it, anybody can push that button, anybody can just take that door off. And then when they go to do it, they actually realize that it requires a little bit of work, a little bit of skill. And then, things go completely to pieces. So it's not shocking, it's hilarious.
Oh yeah, some of them are so useless, and they just think they can do it all and this and that, and then when they're out there, they're crying and whining and all upset, and it's like, oh well.
Any parting words that you want to share with the American public?
Just support us if you can. Understand, we're not lazy. We're honest to God, we're starving. We need that money. It's just that simple. They need to start making this fair for everybody. They need to start taking care of the retired people. These people, they're literally living on peanuts right now. They're not going to raise in a decade. They need to fix that for us. The pay needs to get better. They need to stop relying on temps. All across the industry, they need to stop relying on temps. It's just a way to literally get the union out of the plants. That's all they're doing. So they need to stop relying on temps. Let our Stellantis brothers, our GM brothers, let them know to just hang tight. Do what you got to do, because it's going to be rough. We can already see that it's going to be rough. You know what I mean? And Ford, you need to start letting us know about what we're getting at the table here, so we can get back to work.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway is a lot of the people that are saying, well, if your prices go up, the car price is going to go up. That went up without us getting paid, and we're not with that. We don't want the price to go up. We just need to get paid fairly. But yeah, GM, Stellantis, they're going to be in for a long haul, I think. But we're going to support them either way. Maybe, but that doesn't mean we're out of the woods yet, though. Ford could be held up on something, and I know our president's not the type to be waiting. So, the clock is ticking.
Wait, hang on. Did you see his Twitter post the other day speaking the clock is ticking?
Yeah.
It was for folks that didn't see this, it was Samuel Jackson. I'm not sure what movie it was from, but he looks out the car window and he says, "Tick-tock, motherfucker,
yeah.
tick-tock."
Yeah, TikTok has been a big one. He's been liking that.
Yeah, it made me laugh.
Yeah.
Justin, thank you so much for talking with me.
Pleasure.
And Justin, thank you for talking with me. Appreciate it.
Subscribe.
Yes, like and subscribe. And in fact, I should say that right now. If you are not a Status Coup member, please consider becoming a member. It is your membership donations that keep us out here. We've been out here. This is the 12th day of the strike. We will stay out here longer, but it does cost money for us to be here, between hotel rooms, food, airfare, all that stuff adds up. We spent probably $6,000 to $7,000 by now. So if you can join, please consider joining for $5 a month. I do want to talk to, we have some Canadians down here this week I spoke to a little bit earlier before we went live. I'm going to bring them over here in a minute. But one of them is the ex-president of the Canadian Auto Workers, the equivalent of the UAW in Canada. They obviously were able to secure a deal with Ford last week before it escalated to a strike. I'll let him tell you about what's in the deal and whatnot. In the meantime, though, I think we do have some super chats. Let me see. I've got a text message from Katie Porter's campaign. No, I want to see. Okay, here we go. Not right now, folks. All right, we've got Crystal Waters. Thank you, Crystal Waters. Thank you for all your hard work, Tina and crew. You're welcome. We're happy to be out here covering this. New YouTube member, Cranky Veteran. You have lots of reasons to be cranky. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. New YouTube member, Alex Ocean. Thank you, Alex. StatusCoup.com. These are members on our website. Kevin, Lynn, Brenda, thank you for joining. We appreciate it. Our super chats. Wow, big one. $50 from Mary. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for outstanding reporting on the UAW strike. It's shocking and sad that mainstream media, national and local, don't even know what questions to ask because they are so far out of touch. When they were interviewing Sean Fain, he had to suggest to them to talk to workers. Duh. You're right, duh. That should be a no-brainer. Thank you, Status Coup. You are an inspirational team. Thank you, Mary, for the $50. We appreciate that. Another big one. Wow, $100. $100 from Christy. Thank you, Christy. You guys are great. I love that you cover the strike as well as East Palestine. Hope you don't forget them. No, we will not forget East Palestine. And, in fact, we were up in Flint talking to auto workers a couple days ago. They still don't have clean water in Flint, which is crazy to me. One of the workers was telling me that she still has to use bottled water to cook, that they had started replacing some of the pipes and just stopped. Obviously, Jordan Sheraton knows more about this than I do, so I'm sure he'll bring this up and talk about it again when he's back. Thank you, Christy. We appreciate it. $10 from Joseph. Great coverage. I'm watching your coverage every day, and I'm not even checking my emails. Too busy with this coverage. Well, check a few of your emails just to make sure nothing important slips by. But $10 from Joseph. Thank you, Joseph. We appreciate that. All right, so again, in case you're just joining us, we have a huge strike crowd out here today. This is the Wayne, Michigan Ford Assembly Plant. This is one of the original strike locations where they began the strikeout before Sean Fain expanded and added the 38 parts and distributions to it. So they've been on strike here for 12 days since day one. A much bigger crowd today. Biden is in town. He's on the ground. I'm not sure when. Okay. So John's going to go across the street. I think the mic will be fine this far apart to, get a broad footage so you can see how many people are here today. It's a much bigger crowd than what we've seen previously. Obviously, a lot of this is due to Biden coming by to talk with the United Auto Workers. As you can hear, there's tons of support from people that live here, lots of honking. We've seen a few scabs, so to speak, try to drive into the plant. They eventually are able to get in, but they are getting resistance from the workers here. A lot of them say, shame on you, call them scabs as they come in. But I do want to find our Canadian friends and talk to them a little bit because they can give you a rundown on the Unifor contract that just came through with Ford before they went on strike. Let me see. How are you? Can you give us a lowdown for folks? We're live right now, just by the way, so no hot mic moment.
All right.
Can you give us a rundown on the contract that Unifor has made with Ford last week?
Sure, yeah. So basically, Sid Ryan, past president of the Ontario Federation of Labour. Basically, it's a 10% increase in the first year, 2% in the second, and 3% in the third. That's for production workers. The skilled trades get about 19% over that same 3-year period because they've got extra supplements that go on top of their base salary. They got 2 extra days of holidays. The COLA clause was reintroduced. They got defined benefit pensions for some of the workers, I think maybe for the full-time, but not for everybody. And a $10,000 signing bonus.
I didn't know about the signing bonus. That's fresh information, so that's good. COLA, as you mentioned, that is the cost of living clause.
Yes. Yeah, cost of living allowance, which they gave up in 2008. Pensioners, I believe for skilled trades at least anyway, they get $81 a month times 2 years of service. That's gone up to $87. So it's about a $6 increase. Probably a couple of grand a year is what it works out to be.
How do you feel about the contract?
Well, you know what? It's a good contract as far as the workers in Canada are concerned. But I do believe they undersold themselves a little bit. If they had waited until the UAW settles, I think they're going to get a better contract here. I think Ford will give Sean Fain a better contract than what we got in Canada. And if that happens, then I imagine there'll be a lot of very unhappy workers in Canada. Now, the impact that will have on the bargaining for Stellantis and General Motors, which has yet to take place, that may make it very difficult for those workers to actually sign on to the same agreement that they got in Ford if they get a better deal down here. So it's going to complicate the politics for sure.
Everything complicates the politics. I want to point out this sign here. John, I don't know if you've got this. It says, "Thank you, Sean Fain, for being a real leader." I think that is a meaningful sign. We had a disaster in 2014 where you had UAW bosses taking bribes from the auto companies, returning a terrible contract, and basically telling the membership, this is as good as it's going to get, just vote yes on it. So I think Sean coming in and definitely being hardball with these folks and really outflanking them every step of the way has been beneficial for workers, and workers recognize that. Do you think Sean Fain is doing a good job?
Oh, brilliant job. He's a breath of fresh air. He has energized the entire labour movement all across North America, not just here in the US. Like, workers in Canada are watching this strike every day of the week. They're energized. They're going to bargaining tables and basically saying it's about time that unions got their mojo back. And that's what's happened. And Sean Fain is a big part of that. I'm not just talking about in this strike, but 6 months before the strike, he was talking tough and he was sending a signal to all unions. When you go to the bargaining table, drive a hard bargain because they've been making lots of money. The business class, and the millionaire class, and the billionaire class, they've been making the dough. Now it's time to share it with the workers. And Sean Fain is leading that charge. Yeah, no, I'm proud of this guy.
And you're right about this. We have a labor awakening that's happening in not just the United States, but across the world. We've seen riots in France. We've seen Canadian workers want and ask for more. So the general public is sort of fed up. I think that's why they're with the auto workers. Income inequality is bad across the board. People have been living paycheck to paycheck for, a couple decades now, and they know they're not getting a fair shake. So I guess it's sort of enough is enough and the dominoes are starting to fall. What do you think about the broader labor movement right now globally?
Well, it's getting back on its feet. As I say, I do refer to as having their mojo back. And that is, they've not been fighting hard at the bargaining tables. Now, mind you, governments and employers have imposed an austerity program, on workers' backs right across the world. And now we're seeing that sense of frustration. And I think that's why Sean Fain has actually given sort of life to that movement. He has pointed out in a very clever way that this is the billionaire class who've made multiple billions of dollars. They've got the money. They just got to share that wealth. Now, there's a guy in the UK named Mick Lynch, and he's very much in the same vein as Sean Fain. Very much that kind of a union leader that's mobilising the transit workers in the UK. We've got it beginning to take place. There's been big strikes in Canada, all across Canada in the different sectors. So there's an energy in the labour movement that I've not seen. But now I want to see them capitalise on these agreements and go out and start organising. Say to those non-union plants, particularly auto plants, if you join a union, this is what you can expect. Get these kinds of wages. Go after the plants that are unorganised. Go after those states where you've got right-to-work legislation, and say to Biden, if you really are a friend of Labour, how about you bring in legislation that makes it easier for people to join a union such that we can raise our standards of living? And also organising. Why is it that we only have 6% of workers organised in the US? If he was a real friend of Labour, he would loosen up those regulations such that workers, you should be at a 30% density at least, matching what we have in Canada.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, we have the PRO Act, which was a bill that was designed to do exactly that. It would close up some of the loopholes in right-to-work laws. So right-to-work laws they can be a blow to a union because it takes money out of their pockets. This is where you have workers that are working under union contracts, so they're having the benefits of that union contract, of that organization, but they're not paying union dues, right? So that makes it difficult for if you have to have a strike fund, whatever. So they're designed to keep unions in check, so to speak. So, and there were other things in the PRO Act, but that's one of the big ones. My question is this. The way the United States government is designed, right? So we have a filibuster in the Senate. If the Democrats are constantly saying if we don't get a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, we can't get any laws passed. So the PRO Act made it through the House of Representatives, and then it stalled in the Senate for this reason. But my thing is this: why not get rid of the filibuster then, right?
This is so insane. 2/3 of majority to pass a piece of legislation. Every other government, like even in Canada, when the Tories win, the right wing win, we have to live with the fact that they have actually got 50% plus one, or actually in Canada, because we've got three parties, you can win an election with 39%. They get a majority government, they pass laws that suits their constituents. I don't understand why here we have to have a 2/3 majority. That's not democratic. That's completely and totally undemocratic. So you've got the minority basically holding the majority to hostage. Exactly.
No, you're not wrong on that, and it's not just the filibuster. It's many things about our government. We've struggled trying to get third parties grown in this country for decades and decades. They never seem to take off. Obviously, both Republicans and Democrats, their party structures are designed to hold on to power. Neither of them want to compete with a third party. So tomorrow, Dr. Cornel West, who's running as a Green Party candidate, will be here, in addition to obviously ex-President Donald Trump, who will be incidentally speaking at a non-union facility. I don't understand how he can come into town, say he's pro-labor, and then turn around and set up shop for the night at a non-union facility. I don't know, call me silly, but I don't think he's much of a friend of labor. American politics, they're messy, right? We would benefit of having more of a parliamentary system perhaps, but that's not what we have, so I'm not sure what the solution is there, but it is frustrating. What do you have to say to the American people about things that you have in Canada that we don't have here in the United States? I'm going to suggest things like Medicare for all would be beneficial even for union workers.
We've got a universal healthcare system. And it's one of the best in the world, but it's not without its warts and its problems. It's not perfect. But, I know in the United States that the right wing like to say, oh, that's socialism, and I want nothing to do with socialism. But yet everything else in the world is bloody well socialised. Our roads are socialised. Government is basically socialised. Governments are handing out billions of dollars in taxpayers' dollars to corporations. That's socialism, but it's socialism for the rich, socialism for corporations. But I don't understand. I mean, I see some interviews with some folks from some of those right-to-work states, some of the southern states, and they're like dead set against universal, even though themselves they are absolutely hurting. They cannot get health care for themselves or for their families. But when you say, how about bringing in universal health care, they say, no, that's socialism. And now that means to me that unions have a role to play here. Unions have got to go out and educate their members. There shouldn't be anybody in this picket line, and I met a few of them last night, that would say basically, oh, Trump is he's a businessman. This is nonsense. Like, it's up to the union to educate their members and show the differences between Biden and Trump. Now, I know it may not be a huge difference in a lot of issues, but Jesus, on the major issues, it is clearly a major difference, and it's up to unions. And I'm saying the same to unions in Canada. You've got to get out and educate your members about these right-wing mini-Trumps that we have in Canada are running for office. Show the workers the difference between the two. If you don't, you get this ambivalence, and I had a brother last night tell me on the line, a black brother. I asked him about Trump, and he says, well, leaving aside the racism, he said, Trump is a businessman, and therefore, I've got a lot, I would support Trump. I'm thinking, wait a second, how can you just leave aside racism and then turn around and basically say that you support him? I just don't get that. So
I don't get why. Also, I mean, saying he's a businessman, business leaders, people. He's part of the management class. He's part of the wealthy elites. He does not have workers' rights tantamount to him, right? So the fact that he is a businessman should tell you what you need to know about why he wouldn't be on your side. I want to ask you about Bernie Sanders for a moment. He was here addressing the UAW workers with Sean Fain at the beginning of the strike. Bernie Sanders has always been a friend to labor. I think it's fair to say that. But, Americans you're right, they have this idea about socialism, and I think a lot of them think, well, is Bernie Sanders a socialist? If he's a socialist, I don't know if I could support that. How do we get around that hurdle mentally?
Well, we've got the same thing in Canada. We've got a left-wing party. But they basically refer to themselves as social democrats. So, so there's a way around it without basically saying, and then that opens the door to be able to say, look, education is socialized. Healthcare up there is socialized. Our municipal services are all socialized. I mean, everything about life, basically, is socialized to a large degree. That's what governments are all about. So we need to break through and sort of, again, it's about educating people.
It is. And, to be fair, we've heard many decades worth of corporate, wording around this, right? So corporations benefited by convincing the American public that workers' rights was communist, right?
Yeah.
Or that universal health care, not for profit, that's bad, it's socialism, it's communism. And then they sort of tag onto that if you're a socialist, you're a right-wing, not a right-wing, authoritarian person.
Yeah.
Left. So, and, none of this is entirely true. My family's from Sweden, and 100% were socialists. Nobody would argue that point, and they'd be like, yeah, what's wrong with that? Whereas here, people do think there's something detrimental to that. So it's going to take a hot minute, but this is by design, right? Americans were sold on this rhetoric for a very long time.
Yeah, it's the big red scare. It's been going on for so long, the red underneath the bed, right? That's old stuff. We've been hearing about it in Canada as well. You've got to be communist. And then the union leaders from years ago, some of them were communists, but so what? You know what I mean? What they basically believed in was an egalitarian, equal society for people. I mean, that's what's at the root of it all. So if it's not communism, so it's social democracy, which is a very mild version in some respects of communism. But that's what scares people away because, the governments have spent a lot of time, a lot of years fighting against folks. Look at all the actors, the politicians, and not the politicians, actors in that were blacklisted in Hollywood for many years. Yeah, exactly. Who allegedly had communist leanings and so on.
This is the House of Un-American Activities, the blacklist. That if you were a communist, and Ronald Reagan was a part of that, right? He was our SAG boss at that time for only a year, but he did a lot of damage in the course of that year.
Well, this is what we've had. We've had a history of that, of folks that were part of unions. But, some of the unions were milquetoast unions as well. Like, they weren't really militant unions. These guys make it to the fore and the head of those and then parlay that into a political career, right? We've seen this a lot happening, not just here, but around the world.
I think in a lot of ways, I think a lot of ways, some of the things that have been painted as being radical, right? Communist radicalization, isn't that whatsoever. It's just workers' rights. It's just less income inequality. It's that simple. But I think if you sort of can convince people that this is scary radicalization, then you've won the day as a corporation, and they know when to do that and when not to do that. So here we are.
But they've got deep pockets as well, right? So, so the mainstream media is pumping this crap out all the time. I mean, just right now, listen to what they're saying on mainstream media about this strike. At the beginning, it was all like, oh, yeah, it was kind of pro-union workers out there. Now it's all about, oh, you're going to hurt the economy. I mean, I watched a little clip last night, and there's about 5 or 6 different stations, and every single one of them talked about workers are hurting the economy. They're going to destroy the auto industry. You know what I mean? So this is the corporate class, again, basically pushing back against Sean Fain. It's what they're doing, right?
Right. Yes, it's the line that they are hurting the consumer is what really blows my... As if all of these workers out here aren't also consumers. They are also consumers, and they should be paid a fair wage so that they could also contribute to the growing economy by buying goods because they have the money to do so. It's not... So it's very simplistic to make those kinds of arguments. I would also say you never hear them ask Mary Barra whether or not she's hurting consumers by giving herself, an almost 30% raise in pay.
Right.
That never gets posed to her, right?
You made a very good point.
I gotta interrupt you guys.
Uh-oh.
Biden, on Twitter, I just seen a snapshot.
You're live right now, just so you know.
Oh, Biden was up at is it Wilmount?
Yeah,
Willow Run, and from what I seen on Twitter, there was hardly any UAW picketers or whatever.
They were keeping people shut off.
And he got up and shook a few hands, and he was gone.
Okay.
So I don't know if he's coming by here, going to stop by or drive by. We don't know.
It might be a drive-by. We don't know. But
I was going to say something else about a drive-by. Hey, you better...
What kind of a drive-by? Yeah. So introduce yourself. You're a ex-steel worker guy from Canada.
No. I'm James Moffat. I'm a sheet metal worker.
Sheet metal, sorry.
Yeah. You said steel worker.
Steel worker.
That's an industrial union. I'm from a construction building trades union.
Right.
That's right. From Ontario, Tirana.
You're a Canuck. What are your thoughts on all this? You came down here in solidarity and support.
Well, you know what? I think my biggest thought on this, my main goal and thought when I decided to come with this dude here was that, you know what? I've been retired for 10 years, and I miss a lot of this. I miss the grassroots of the labor movement, and this has been a worthwhile trip because this is a significant strike that's going to mean a lot. Whenever it's settled, it's going to make a big difference to a lot of people's lives. So I'm just glad to be part of it. So
right now we're looking at.
Yeah, let's slow him down. I don't know when he's delivering.
Turn around. He just walked out of the car. Get that, John.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Don't let this fucker. Fuck you.
So, yeah, that's the truck driver. He walked out of the car. I don't know. I thought maybe he was walking out in solidarity. I think he's walking out because he's angry. Yeah, he's getting back in the car now. All right, not in solidarity. Yeah.
Hey guys, we have about 1,600 viewers right now. We need at least 20 viewers to sign up as members today to keep us out here and keep us covering. We've been out here on the ground live every day for 12 days. And if you want us to keep our coverage going, we need you to sign up as members. Go to statuscoup.com/join. Only $5 to $10 a month. That's 16 cents per day. Also, share.
Like and share the live stream. We'll get more viewers that way. I want to stay on this. This guy, he had gotten out of his truck earlier. I thought maybe he might come out in solidarity, but no, he was kind of angry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Got right in your shot there. He got back into the car, so the UAW strikers are preventing him from going into the facility. Now we have a safety guy coming out here. But a big crowd out here on the picket line today. We had Biden in town. He's not coming to this location. He spoke at another GM location earlier. But a lot of energy here. It's the 12th day of picketing, and people really still have high morale. They are committed to the cause. They are not stopping anytime soon. And they have high energy. So it looks like he's going to try to drive in here. All right, I got some super chats. I'm going to read these as we're looking at the scene here. We've got the workers out here on strike at the Ford Wayne plant. Super chats. Tony D, thank you, Tony D, $4.99. Don't be fooled by Joe Biden. He could force the auto companies to meet the workers' demands. You know, I agree with you there, Tony. It's often put on the shoulders that workers are the problem. They're the ones that need to make the concessions. They're the ones that need to get back to work. We rarely, if ever, see a president or any politician turn around and say to the CEOs, you know what, you're the problem. You're the one that has given yourself too much money. The income inequality is untenable. It's not sustainable. How about you come to the table and give the workers what they want? You know, I think in order for that to happen, there just has to be a fundamental shift in attitude and belief in the country. All right, another super chat. Jordan Sheraton, who is that guy? Jordan Sheraton, $10. Status Coup is the only outlet that has been on the ground for all 12 days of the UAW strike. That is true. Today is day 12. We're still out here, and we're going to continue to be out here. We'd like to remain out there, but need help funding. Support us for $5 to $10 a month. Thank you, Jordan. Dennis Laminsky, $9.99. Thank you, Dennis. We appreciate that. Solidarity with UAW. It seems to me to be equally plain that no business which demands for existence on paying less than living wages to its workers has any right to continue in this country. That is a quote from FDR. We need another FDR. Thank you, Dennis. Also, new member Travis just joined. Thank you, Travis. We appreciate your membership. Welcome aboard. So they are still blocking this guy from entering. Really thick crowd here. You've got some safety guys that have now come out, and they're trying to, like, sort of shepherd the truck through the workers.
I watch it every morning.
Oh, thank you. Do you want to
Oh, yeah, in a little bit. I'm trying to. Is the president going to be here? You know?
He's not coming. He's over at another facility down the street. And then another GM.
Oh, okay. I saw you when I did my Bronco convoy. Oh, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Someone
No
told.
justice, no peace.
Is that not the best show ever? We need to do this. No building, no Bronco. I don't know. I can do better. Yeah, I just want to let you know.
No bumps, no trucks.
That's right. That's right. I would rather give independent media all my attention than this.
Nobody else.
Look, when I saw you down in Ohio, I didn't see Jordan. I was like, oh, yeah. I've been following you. I do not know who you are. I apologize. Tina. Okay. I just see Jordan, but I've seen you talk with him together. You know what I'm saying? On Status. I didn't know that you also went out in the field.
All she said, they got to
When I was first getting into politics, Gordon was just a little puppy in this, but I listened to what he said. I have the exact same views because I was on Bernie Sanders' campaign for 9 months, 9 states.
Will you work with us right now?
Yeah, why not?
All right.
Why not? Yeah.
So introduce yourself. You just came up to me and said, "Hey, love Status Coup. I'm a watcher. You're also a UAW out here on the UAW picket line. Yes. What is your name?"
I'm Randy Miller.
Hi, Randy Miller. So you were down. So a couple days ago, we were down in Toledo, Ohio, and there was a group that came down in support. That's a Stellantis Jeep plant down there. You guys came down with a Bronco caravan and drove around in support. There was actually a lot of you folks.
Great. I personally came with 3 people. Every Bronco that was there, I don't know, probably had like 50 of them, had somebody in it from the local here, so you can just do the math. The solidarity has been restored. Sean Fain has done something that I didn't think was possible because my car group, I told you I campaigned for Bernie Sanders earlier. But what I didn't tell you is that my passengers were Trump supporters. But we were together on this. We have all decided that we want Joe Biden and Donald Trump to stay out of our fight. They set up the conditions we see today. Why we have to strike is because of their policies. Joe Biden, he says he supports us. He wants to come and he wants to support us today. But Joe Biden was the one who was trying to push the TPP.
Right.
That's not a pro-union policy, but yet we had him trying to champion that. Donald Trump told a crowd at a rally in Michigan at the airport where Joe Biden is that I am overpaid. He also said this campaign that the union is going to hell.
Right, no, he did. He said Sean Fain was selling you downriver was one of the things he said. Yeah. I think more disturbing to me, though, is he's actually going to be speaking at a non-union facility. Why would you come? Why would you come to Michigan to speak to union workers and then set up shop at a non-union facility?
I'll tell you why. Relying on optics for those who are not educated enough to understand what policies, actual policies, he pushed that were very anti-union. Like I said, if a president tells a crowd that we're overpaid, believe what he says. He means it. He doesn't belong here supporting me, and I don't accept his support. Joe Biden gets it by the narrowest of margin because I'm not just looking at threat to my income. I'm looking at a threat from fascism. I personally can do something about that, and I will. We all have a personal decision to make on that. And when it comes to this election, I'm going to vote for the person who supports the union.
Right.
Plain and simple. Not, I support you, but hey, you guys are asking too much and you're going to go to hell. I don't accept that. I don't accept a president that's going to go and pass a trade bill that's going to hurt me and my family personally. You don't get votes that way. If Joe Biden was serious about getting the union vote, he would do something legislatively. They all would before a presidential debate or an election. They only give a damn because they want to get elected. And I'm kind of tired of that. You know?
Well, you know what? I think most Americans are tired of it. They see it for what it is. You know, that you mentioned the TPP. For folks that don't know what that is, it's like a mini NAFTA.
Trans-Pacific Partnership.
That's right, Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Yeah.
You know, Hillary Clinton had initially supported it when she was Secretary of State, when Obama was president.
Yeah.
But then as she was running for president, at first she supported it, but then she backed away from it and said, no, it's a bad deal, we shouldn't do it.
Right.
But, you know, you have to look back at NAFTA and see that was absolutely a point in time that sort of pushed labor where it is today.
I agree.
Free trade is not fair trade, and there's no reason why our government shouldn't be making deals. I mean, trade isn't necessarily inherently bad, but it needs to be done in a way where people aren't harmed, where people aren't losing jobs.
Yes.
And NAFTA didn't just hurt Americans, it hurt people in Mexico and Canada too.
Yes,
it was a handout to giant multinational companies.
Sure. All of that, all the hardships that Americans have gone through financially is because of the choice to do so in Washington. Those in Washington are like acting all shocked and, hey, I can't believe that this is happening. No. You don't get to do that. You don't get to pass the bills that affect the working class and destroy the working class and then come back around and go to an airport and say, hey, I'm president. Hey, I got my ice cream. I'm looking at my ice cream and I'm saying, hey, you don't need decent pay. I'm here to tell you that I support you, but knock it off. Because when I go back to Washington, I'm going to pass something like the TPP or whatever. It's just...
I want to actually ask you about railway workers. So there is a federal law that allows a president to intervene with airline strikes or railroad strikes. He can't intervene in this one in the way he did with the railway strikers, but he did stop the workers from striking.
I have something to say about that. It's totally acceptable for our government to come in and bail out those responsible for the financial collapses and for the low wages. It's okay to bail them out with trillions of dollars and then claim, hey, it's just capitalism. It's just the way it works, you know. Hey, but when it comes to us, the working class needing that same help, we get the cold shoulder, and we're the ones paying for these billion-dollar bailouts. We try to use it on ourselves for our own misery and suffering, and we're denied that from multi-billionaires and billionaires in Washington, D.C. Complete, total disconnect. Even after this is over, it's not over. There's so much disconnect and a broken system. I don't know. I don't think capitalism can be fixed.
Right.
I don't think it can, and it's going to take us down. It is going to take us down. But it's an anchor. It's like America is the only country in the world that has to add the cost of health care to every single product Americans build. Every single one. Our foreign competitors are not anchored to a price to their any product. No product has to rise because of healthcare. But you put it in America, it's the most expensive system on the planet. And the same taxpayers who are getting price gouged are the ones who are paying for these. It's just...
You're not wrong on this. We pay more for healthcare, and we get less services for what we pay.
Yeah, that's one of our major bargaining issues right now is not only are we anchored to the price of health care, is that we also have to we are forced to bargain for private, expensive health care. That's a big cost to companies. Yeah, if you were to remove that, every single product in America would instantly become cheaper and more competitive. But because we have the for-profit, expensive healthcare system, we're going to lose. We're on a losing end.
You would sort of think on a certain level that companies would realize that is driving up prices.
Sure.
You would think that if they realize if we had universal health care coverage, that it would make it easier for them to run their businesses. It would make unions easier for them to just focus on wages and the things that they're there for. But because we have this albatross of for-profit health care, it weighs both down. The people benefiting from this obviously are healthcare executives, and they have a large lobby, and they,
Oh well, they can afford their deductibles. They can, if rich get sick. I think if Rush Limbaugh, when he had to go to a hospital one time, and he was praising the healthcare system. I mean, praising it. See, it's good and dandy when they need it. I think back at the kids on this line who are making the bottom dollar. I think it's like 18. Yeah, less than that. I go to the doctor, just a copay. it's less of my income because I'm making full wage. One of these kids with a family goes and they got a sick kid, and it's a huge setback for them. Yeah, it's a huge setback for them.
From the burn barrel.
I'm really here for them. I'm not worried about me.
Let me ask, you were campaigning, you said, for Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
Bernie Sanders is obviously the most pro-labor out of all of them. I don't think that's debatable.
Absolutely.
Why do you think some union members, they know this and they're still hesitant to vote for him? And I mean, I talked to a couple of folks that were like, yeah, Bernie's clearly pro-labor, but
yes,
I don't know if I agree with him on other things. I'm like, I'm kind of perplexed or puzzled by that. What, as a union worker, you talk to these guys, what were some of the things that you would hear?
Okay, well, if I were to talk to a Democrat who was a Biden supporter, their go-to is always communist, socialism, this, that. And I'm like, corporations take more in public money than I do. We're not calling them the communists and socialists. I don't get the tax breaks. I don't get the corporate welfare state coming and helping me out. So I laugh at that. But when I talk to a Trump supporter and they say, "Oh no, Donald, he canceled NAFTA, yeah, but he was in favor of the TPP too, just like Joe." But his own little version. I don't know what he passed. I don't pay attention to any of his stuff anymore. I just know that Joe Biden's president right now, and he's what matters in his policies. Donald Trump wants to get the attention on his policies. He's not going to get president first. And as far as that goes, I am not going to vote for Donald Trump. I know for a fact that he's not even trying to be pro-union. He just wants to explain himself and then try to be pro-union.
Well, I mean, it sort of seems to me that he's almost actively union busting by doing what he's doing. If he's going to endorse some sort of right to work state,
exactly.
I mean, I don't know what he's doing here, but it seems very odd to me. Let me ask you about another candidate that's coming to town. Dr. Cornel West will be here tomorrow. He's running. He's running as the Green Party. How do you feel about Dr. Cornel West?
Cornel West called me his brother, and he meant it. And I think that he is my brother. Look, Dr. Cornel West has the best policies for the working class. Joe Biden and Donald Trump could learn a lot from Cornel West. I got to meet him on the Bernie campaign. I got to hear what he had to say, and I could tell where Bernie got some of his views. Dr. Cornel West is an amazing candidate. It saddens me that he's running on the Green Party, because America has never had a third party. I'm still going to vote my conscience. I don't care. I'm not voting for a popularity contest. I don't want the bragging rights. I want policy. Who cares if your guy won? His policies are going to be horrible. You know, what's there to gloat about? When Joe Biden won, I wasn't all happy and joyful because I already know that Joe Biden was my vice president, and I know the policies he was pushing with Obama's pro-corporate agenda. That's the whole ruse in America. Left against right. No, it's the working class against the establishment. There is no left and right. They're all the same. Educate yourself, America. There is a difference. I mean, it's crazy. I do, and a lot of my coworkers can tell the difference because we've lived under NAFTA and all the other crony trade agreements that only shoveled money to the top. We're done with that. Yeah. So when Joe Biden wants to pull up and everybody rushes, I'm just going to turn my back. Not worthy of attention. You know, like I said, if it came down to it, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, I got to vote against fascism every time.
Yeah.
But we're going to give him hell. We're going to give Joe Biden hell. No one's going to get away with mistreating the working class. You know, I don't care if you're not the fascist one. You're still hurting us, you know?
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yes.
I think it's just unfortunate the way that party politics are. the wealthy elites that are also donors in both parties, right? Both political parties have the same corporate donors, same agenda. Yeah, same agenda. You will see them give money to both Democrats and Republicans.
Sure. You know where I learned a lot of that from? Independent media, because the establishment media don't want to talk. They don't want to talk about the deals and the games that are being played.
Well, that's because they're part of that. You know, we've had. The media industry has also been consolidated. Let's go, the burn bear. The problem is we have a fire in there and then it starts to rain and then it gets smoky.
I get teary-eyed, but it's not because of the smoke. I get teary-eyed because I'm very proud of my union brothers and sisters. And that goes across all big three. We are ready for this fight. I've been waiting 28 years to settle my frustrations. Now that I've gotten it, I don't plan on backing down. This fight's far too important to me. They know it's important too. Management over there sitting at that guard check. Some of those are my bosses, supervisors. They know how important it is. They know this is a big deal. They wouldn't be out here watching this if they didn't think some stuff was going to go down, because it's going down. I think that this strike will end for Ford soon. They've come to the table. They've made a lot of movement. I was hoping like 3 weeks. I don't expect 40%. I expect everything that is closest to that. If it's 36%, okay, that's a great start. We have more contracts to come. If we don't get the 32-hour work week like Europe, who's very productive, it's okay. We got another contract. We will. It's not to live to fight another day. It's to continue the fight every day. That means going out and being unionally active, forming unions, new unions, the membership. The old union ones that were selling out, they didn't really do a lot of outreach. Me as a union member don't understand why we don't have somebody a full-time job. And I know there is somebody with a full-time job with union outreach. They need a little help. Just talking about this is union outreach, just getting the message out. But we need an active union that it builds. Like they don't want the.
I think that's a marijuana dispensary,
yes,
right?
Sure is.
And they have a pro UAW.
Yes. Michigan voters have a good sense. Just like the UAW, we got to vote for our first union president in history. In my personal opinion, when the people get a choice, you will always get the best leader. Sean Fain is proving that when given a choice, democracy will always prevail over the forces that we are fighting against. I mean, whether it be the company, fascism, whatever. It's across the whole board. But democracy did work with the union. And we're seeing it right now. We all voted for our president. He gave the company our demands. Which were very reasonable. And then he left it up to us. It's not Sean Fain who's striking against the big three. Let us be very clear. It is the worker who is striking against the big three. Sean is only relaying our message.
And let's mention, this is the first time you've had one member, one vote instated. Before you had a delegate process, which is much less democratic than what you're doing now. One member, one vote should be the gold standard, I think.
For sure.
And that had led, you had some crappy UAW membership that sold you guys out. For folks that don't know, you had a couple of bosses that were taking bribes from the auto workers. They are currently serving felony sentences for Taft-Hartley Act violations, rightfully so. So I think because of that, they came back with a contract. They kind of basically said, you need to vote on this. We're not going to get anything better.
Right.
But it's not even clear that they fought for anything better to begin with because they were getting bribes. So,
I was told that we will never see those concessions returned by the old leadership. Old leadership said this to me. we're now looking at the restoration of cost of living. We're looking at restoration of pensions and a higher middle class wage, back to where the auto worker entry level was considered middle class. That will be restored. That will be a decent wage to raise a family, to send a kid to school, do what you have to do. Nobody can raise a family, send a kid to school, pay their bills on even $21. It's a struggle. I remember making that, and cost of living has gone up while my pay has stayed the same, and it's gotten increasingly harder and harder. So I'm hoping that this next generation after this contract is back where they should have been, and the concessions have been restored like they promised us.
It is kind of weird. Like
That's why we're really upset. We're continually being lied to and mistreated. Continually have to take concessions. I remember when I took the concessions the first time. I wasn't happy, but I knew I had to save the company. My heart was with the company when that happened. I was helping the company. Now that the company's profitable, they've completely removed their heart and installed an accountant. And that heart is telling, well, you got to have as cheap labor as possible if you want to satisfy the shareholders. That's basically what's happening. Without a union, there would be no hope. But as you see, there's plenty of hope here.
The energy here is still quite high. This is the 12th day. Wildly, shareholders voted against Carlos, the Stellantis CEO, his pay package 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They thought it was too high, which is, so, that's kind of a shocking little bit of tidbit for a lot of folks, because everybody assumes automatically CEOs just keep giving themselves raises, no pushback. But, I mean,
Total garbage.
it is wildly bad for a company to have such extreme worker to CEO pay ratios. It's bad for morale.
Think about that for a second. Think about that. The company is perfectly fine with a CEO making 400 times, 300 times, whatever it is, more than the average worker. Like they actually do 300 times the work. Come on, look. Any of entry-level worker that works on this line works harder than any CEO. Any. So when they come with that, Mary Barra, is that her name? Oh, a performance.
Yeah.
Really?
Performance of what precisely? Well, the stock.
She's superhuman, I guess. She's doing 300 times the work. Wow. I like to get that on camera. Give me one day of her at work, and then give one day of these individuals who work their butts off. You're going to see who's earning their money. It's not Mary.
If I could ever corner Mary and,
For sure.
Dog her, what's happening here?
I have no idea. I'm not in the way, so no one's in the way.
Listen, we've been very fair. If you see us trying to pull in here, please move out of the way.
Yeah. But pedestrians aren't illegal.
That's not what I'm saying.
Guys,
Here,
let me
we'll
do
have
the
a conversation.
Right.
All right, everybody back off.
Anyways, well, I guess they don't like our interview.
Apparently not.
Yeah, too much truth.
Plenty of space to get through by us.
Sure he did.
We actually had to walk
Sure he did.
towards him.
Yeah.
This is what I was about to say. If I had the opportunity to dog Mary Barra or any of these CEOs to ask them questions, I would want to flip the switch and say, Mary, you give yourself a 28% increase in pay. Why are you harming the consumer? These are questions that are never, the questions that are given to workers on the line, to union members, to the middle class. They're never asked the same of those that are controlling the money in this country.
Very frustrating.
And but that's also part of the problem, right? The framing of that.
Yes. You've done quite a few interviews. I've been in many locations and seen you, so I can't be the only one saying this. This must be talked about, and at every gate that there's a picket sign. Like I said, Sean Payne has done an excellent job putting us all on the same page. America is finally get to see what an uncorrupt, unbought union can do for its workers. It's gained a bad name over the years, rightfully so, being bribed. But it's not irreversible damage because it's really what the union is. It's its membership. It's not its leaders. Just like America isn't its president. It's just the elected leader. We are the UAW. And America gets to see us with our picket signs. And there's more support for us than I actually thought. It's a good feeling seeing all these vehicles honk, drop off food to us, give us well-wishing. It's been amazing. I love it. I don't know why he's here, because we haven't really done any rebel rousing or anything. We've all been very respectful.
I agree. He sort of had a grumpy look on his face.
Yeah. It looks like it was like typecast for this villain. He has a bunch of them.
I don't know what's going on. It's very weird.
We should cover this, huh?
Yeah, maybe we should look at what's going on over here.
Thank you for the interview. I appreciate that.
No, we appreciate
Listen,
you. Thank you for talking with us.
Give Jordan a message for him. Okay. When I watch you videos, I spent when this show came out, I watched them all. You're the one that watched it. Independent media. Best form of information. When you're not bought by the money, back. Let's get back a little bit. I was a stand up at all. When I saw you doing this, I didn't care about any of these people. Hey, I was waiting for you.
Right on. Well, we appreciate you talking to us. I'm not sure what this was about over here. That was very odd.
I don't know. It must have been the truckers complaining that we were pedestrians. No one stopped in front of it. We were just walking.
Do you know what that was about?
I was over there when whatever happened. I guess the truck driver came.
The truck driver called?
Pardon me? Yeah, no, they probably called, but the truck driver didn't even attempt to come in. We only hold them up for a minute or so,
Yeah.
and then we let them in. We just asked for their support.
I was here for that. Oh, so basically the truck driver called the police on the strikers? Well, okay.
The corporate security called them.
Oh, the corporate security called the City of Wayne Police Department, who are very grumpy apparently. All right.
I'm gonna go walk down.
Thank you. Appreciate you talking with us. Thank you.
I would appreciate it if you walked down here and gave interviews too.
Okay, I'll
later
come
on,
down
though.
there.
I know this is the hot spot, but
hang on.
some people might want to.
So we still have over 1,000 people watching, I believe. I see maybe only 600 or 700 likes. So if we get more people to smash the like button, share the stream, get this out to more people. And we do need more members. I know we got a few today. We definitely need a few more to keep us here reporting on the ground. We've been live every day for 12 days here, letting workers tell their story, tell us what they're going through so you can see this. And if you appreciate our reporting and you support us, please become a member. Go to StatusCoup.com/join. And if you cannot do the $5 to $10 a month, which comes out to 16 cents a day, we also have a donation page. So StatusCoup.com/donate. We're going to try and get more workers to speak with. Let me give the microphone back to Tina. But go ahead, smash that like button.
He has some good points too.
If it's up to Democrats,
UAW!
The UAW that the president does and takes care of.
All right, so an update. We have 7 new members today. 7 new members that signed up. We need 13 more to get to the 20 total that we need to stay out here on the road. We want to stay out till tomorrow and even beyond that, because this story is so important right now. This is not just for the auto workers. This is the story of every working citizen in this country.
UAW!
And we're funded by you, the viewers, the people, the members. We don't take any corporate donations.
I don't really like everything he's involved in. He's socialist. I don't think socialism.
So I believe Biden has left Michigan. He must be on his way to San Francisco. But he did not come over here to the Ford assembly plant in Wayne to show his solidarity with the workers.
I appreciate that.
But I mean, there's more to it than that. I mean, you can't socialism doesn't work very well. Right. Yes. So I get that. But I don't think there's too many things going on with those 330 million people. It's sweet.
I got you. All right.
And I loved it up there. I didn't get to Sweden, but I got to that area.
Right on. Thank you. I'm just curious about this. All right. So I couldn't get him to talk to us on camera, but I wanted to. He's a Trump supporter, and I wanted to understand how he felt about Trump speaking at a non-union hall. Obviously his stance on labor is not pro-labor. So he agrees that that's the case, that the guy is not pro-labor, that he shouldn't be speaking at a non-union hall. But he's making the case that all the Republicans are like that, so that's not really a big difference. And that Democrats can be that way too, but that he votes on other issues. So there are bigger issues that matter to him more than the labor issue does. All right, so we've got some more super chats. I want to read these. Nancy Bernard, $9.99. Thank you, Nancy. Tina and John, great job reporting and giving UAW workers a chance to tell their stories. Thank you, Nancy. Tina, let me know when you go to Rancho Cucamonga striking UAW. I want to join. I will definitely let you know. So Rancho Cucamonga, for folks that don't know, this is a California location. I believe it's the only California location where there are strikers. So when I get back home, I'm definitely going to pop by there and talk to some folks there. We have a new website member named Cameron. Thank you, Cameron. We appreciate you for joining. Humorous. There's our guy, Humorous. Humorous, $20. Thank you. Let's ditch the presidential candidates. Elect Sean Fain as the president of America. Let's fire all of Congress and put real people up there. People that care about each other instead of politics and greed. Thank you, Humorous. Appreciate that. We have 3 new YouTube members. Travis Jarvis, welcome. Women the Lifeboat, welcome, Women the Lifeboat. And Eric Darnell, thank you, Eric Darnell, for joining. We appreciate that. Wow, we have a bunch more donations here. So StatusCoup.com, donate. These are donations to our website. We have $5 from Rochelle. You all do a fantastic job. Thanks for reporting the real true facts. Best news reporting outlet I've seen in years. We appreciate that. Thank you, Rochelle. That is basically because we are out here talking. We're in the epicenter of where this is happening, talking to the people that make it happen. Do you know, there was a time when that was normal journalism, where you would knock on doors, where you would knock on doors and talk to folks to get the story. That's how you get the story. You can't possibly understand the plight of a union worker unless you've actually spoken with union workers. It's just that way. And again, you know, they're not a monolithic group. We have spoken to people that support Biden, people that support Bernie Sanders, and a couple of Trump people. So it's not a monolithic group. $50 from Jay. Thank you, Jay. That's a very generous donation. Go UAW 598. JJ. Thank you, Jay. We appreciate that. And then we have 2 new members, Jonathan and Corey, on our website. All right. 7 new members. That's great. So, one more super chat from Will, $10. We appreciate the $10, Will. Great work. Keep it up. All right. We will definitely keep it up. It's day 12 here. We are currently in Wayne, Michigan at the Ford assembly plant. This was one of the original sites that they went on strike at. Then we added the 38 parts and distribution centers that are joining that strike. Biden was here in Michigan today, down the street. We haven't seen him here. I'm not sure he's going to come here at this point. Okay, they left already. Tomorrow we'll be seeing Dr. Cornell West here in Wayne, Michigan. I think, though, there's another picket down the street here that I kind of want to get down there and talk to folks because we have not been there yet. This is the main gate. The last couple of times we've been here, we've talked to folks here, so I think maybe we should.
I think maybe that way.
That's what I'm being told. You don't think that's right? That's what our friend just told us.
Oh, yeah?
A bunch of
Just go
people.
that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we could always walk back. Are you in the mood for exercise?
Sure.
So a minute ago, we had some police and law enforcement showed up. Apparently, what had happened is one of the trucks that had been coming into the facility, the picketers are allowed to try to stop them for a minute, but then they have to let them in. There's a 10-minute, I believe, time limit. And they've been pretty much adhering to that, but apparently one of the truck drivers the security guys called the police because of it. But then they ended up leaving. It was kind of strange. All right, so we are walking around the Ford facility right now. Hey there. So generally speaking, what they do is they put up pickets at each one of the entrances to the facility. So again, that's the main one. We've got one down here. We've got one further down on the other side. We have some news crews still across the street. And across the street on the other side is where the main union hall is. Oh yeah, there's a decent group down here. We've had some rain here this morning. I'm wearing like all of my sweaters that I packed at the same time. Triple layering here because I didn't pack a jacket. So this is a Ford facility. Ford is the first company to come to the table. They are saying they're going to give back COLA, which is the cost of living. They are going to get rid of the temp tiers, so that will be 90 days as a temp, and then you get converted to full-time. You know, we've been talking to workers that are working 5-7 years as temp employees. Then they get switched to full-time, and they lose hourly pay because of it. It's kind of a crazy setup they have going. I'm like, where's John? Am I losing John here? All right, so small group here. Hi. Do any of you guys want to talk to us? $10 an hour. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your stories? A little bit? No? No? All right.
Thank you, though.
100%. Right on. Do any of you guys want to talk to us?
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you.
Nothing personal, but no thank you.
All right, that's all right. It's okay to be shy. That's all right. All right, we're going to go down to the next one, I guess, see what's down here. I don't know. John, you may be right about this. Might be busier on the other side. Yeah, they don't want to talk. Well, no, is that an apple? That's good for the grass, actually.
Don't eat the free food.
Don't eat the. Do you think there's anyone down here that'll talk to us?
Water.
Oh, I'm good right now, but thank you. Oh, I love this. The Ford emblem here.
This is where people stand to strike. Put your signs.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. That's my gate right there on Sunday.
Right on. Okay.
It's, each day, got the same people every night. So if you ever want to come back to do a follow-up.
Yeah. This is what you'll be? Okay.
You'll find me here.
Okay.
At gate 14.
This is how big is this facility? It's really large.
Well, this right here is they call MAMC.
MAMS?
What happens is the
Okay.
fully built vehicles come over here for all their trim packages.
Okay.
Whatever upgrades they have from the customer, if they ordered something extravagant, you know. But other than that, it's
like seat warmers that keep your butt warm?
No, that's that would be probably the mainland. I'm trying to figure out what they do over here, because I don't do anything over here.
Okay.
They do my job. I don't think I told you. I'm the fleet technician. I'm like I have to explain why a perfectly brand new vehicle isn't.
Is it working?
Yeah, it's super stressful. You tried
Yeah,
doing something that's
that sounds
brand new.
stressful.
But luckily,
Especially with all the computer chips now,
yeah,
right?
well, I had several months of schooling, so they say I'm the highest trained non-skilled trade position. I could be skilled trade easily, but for some reason they don't have a skilled trade.
Or when they do, it's a very odd. I'm not clear.
It's very specific when they do it. Like with my job being the technician, it's everything on the vehicle.
Right.
Everything. I don't know why it's not a skilled trade, because you got to know.
Well, I mean, truly, even if they don't qualify it as skilled, I think just about everybody here has a skill set.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and anybody can have my job. You just have to have the seniority for it. I happen to have enough seniority in the whole plant where there was only like 8 positions that were available, and I had high enough seniority to get them. So that's why I say I'm not worried about me. I'm actually helping other families out right now during this hard time, because I've accumulated. When I say I've accumulated wealth, I'm not talking about a savings account. I'm talking I work so much that I just can't. I just don't have any time to spend it. So what ends up happening?
these are like vacation days, personal days that you accrue.
One year I worked so much I forgot to take my vacation. It's embarrassing. I got into a rut, and I completely blew through the whole year without using my vacation, and they paid it to me at the end of the year. I'm like, why am I getting all this money?
Nice.
I'm like, and I realized, bro, you worked so much. You worked through your entire freaking year without taking a vacation. That sickened me. I'm not ever going to do that again. Money's
Take your vacation.
Yeah, I make over what I need. I mean, I have an abundance. So when I see someone who's hurting, I give out small loans. Like during COVID, I didn't get laid off. During COVID, I was so gainfully employed. I was able to take care of my entire family, not immediate, my entire family.
Wow.
Some of them were out of work. So I was able to. Ford does do good things. Like to me, I had a position and a chance to make a bunch of money. I am not the case. I am not. And I feel bad for my brothers and sisters that don't have the opportunities that I have.
No,
but
I
that
know,
took 28
right?
years.
Yeah.
Why does it take 28 years?
It shouldn't. I mean, some of the starting pay is like, $16 an hour. It's rough. Do you think anybody around here would want to talk with us? If not, we're going to head back to the other.
I'm just trying to think of who I know here. I don't know any of these, but this guy's got a Godzilla shirt on.
Did you guys
so
want
he
to
might
talk to
wanna
us at all?
See,
All right, right on.
I said your
I know you got Godzilla shirt.
Thanks.
What is your name?
My name's Aaron.
Hey, Aaron. How long have you been here at the Ford?
Well, I've been working for Ford for 5 years now. I've been at this plant for at least 2. I transferred a couple of years ago.
We should move out of this.
Oh, yeah.
Smoky eyes. Sorry, so say that again?
I've been working for this plant for about 2 years now. I worked in Bronco, and now I'm on the Ranger line, building doors.
And are you full-time or temporary? Or
I just got rolled over to Legacy, so I'm going to be getting top pay. But I'm hoping after this contract, I get a little bit more boost in my pay after that. But it took me about 5 years to get to that. Some people it takes a little bit longer, which is unfortunate. It should be 90 days you work, 90 days you're in.
That's hilarious. A guy in a Bronco. I'm like, is that an ambulance? No, it's a guy in a Bronco. What is the top cap? There's a cap here. Like, I know Stellantis, I think, is 25 at the Mopar places.
So at this plant I'm aware of, top pay is around $32 an hour. It's a lot better. But if you go to... No, not really. People are struggling. But if you go to places like I've heard Sterling and Rossville. Actually, I used to work at Sterling. But I would have been only at $22 an hour. Just by transferring plants, I was able to get a boost. Yeah, it's not right. I mean, these companies are bringing in billions of dollars every year. There's no reason they can't spread that out. Besides, how are people going to buy your vehicles when they can't afford them, too?
So how do you feel about the way Shawn Fain is handling the negotiations? He's got this stand-up strike thing he's doing where he started with like a handful, expanded it to 38, maybe some more if he doesn't get what he wants. Do you think it's a good strategy?
Oh, I think it's a great strategy. I think it's been working well so far. I think this referendum that we've had over the past year has been a great thing. We've increased the democratic process of our union, and I think the membership is... Shawn Fain is answering the membership right now. He's been... I think he's been really solid now. I may not have voted for him, but you know what? I heard what he has to say. I really like what he's been doing so far. I think he's a valuable union leader in this time, especially in these days.
Yeah, no, he's really definitely strong, and he's well-spoken. He handles the media very well. Whenever he's asked some rough questions or kind of even some silly questions, he handles them really well. So
he dismantles them like they're nothing. It's really incredible to see.
Right, which is something we haven't seen in the past. So this is the return of strong labor in a way in the country. There's been awakening, I think, in other industries as well. Income inequality is just too extreme. People can't get by, especially with the increase of goods. You go to the grocery store and you're out easily $200. So that eats into your salary. Cost of rents is absolutely through the roof.
Oh, it's bananas. Yeah, me and my wife, we just moved into a new house, and I know one thing we were worried about was paying our house if we were going to go on strike. But I'm hoping this'll I can get some more money and some more time off so that I can spend some time with my family and that.
Quality of life is good too. What do you think is the most important sticking point? Is it getting back COLA? Is it eliminating the temp workers?
I think those two are the big things, but also getting a raise for everybody, because we're really behind on where we should be. 30% is what we should be at right now, at the very least. I don't think it's too much of an ask to ask for us all to get a 30% raise over a course of 4 years of this contract.
Well, that's the other thing people don't realize. These contracts aren't just for 1 year. You don't get the 40% all at once. It's going to be extended through the course of the contract over multiple years.
Correct. Yes, we got to do this like at least every 4 years. So it's not like we're asking for it all at once. This will be over the course of 4 years, basically.
And considering that your wages have been sort of, suppressed, damped down the last couple of decades, really asking for 40%. I know for some people they hear that number, that 40% number, and they're like, my God, what? I would never ask for 40%. But when you hear what it is and the circumstances that are surrounding it, it's very reasonable. Let me ask you this. What is one thing you hear in the media all the time that just makes you crazy because you think it's not accurate?
I think the thing that drives me wild is like the framing. Like when people talk about the economic impact, it's not us that want to cause that impact. It's the car companies that don't want to work with us. We're just asking for a fair deal here. I don't know why some people in the media seem to frame it like as if we're the one that's the problem here. It seems very unfair. I mean, I get it. Some media institutions have a specific interest in mind, but it's not very fair to your average person.
No, I mean, it would be more fair if they were asking the CEOs the same question, but they're not.
Not typically. I mean, I've seen a couple. Nowadays, I kind of see it a little bit more, where you get some people like that interview that Mary Barbara did. I don't think she made herself look real good when she was talking about her pay being justified due to stock performance, which she can, I'm just going to be frank.
Which she can easily manipulate.
She can manipulate that with stock buybacks, which is what they did, and then they'll go and cry about us. It's not very fair in my eye.
No, and you know what? Shawn's done a great job of hammering that home. He's talked about the fact that stock buybacks have increased 1,500% in the last 4 years. And if you want to manipulate a short-term stock price, that's how you do it. But you're not investing into the well-being of the company. You're certainly not investing in the long-term aspects of the company, right? This is just some way to short-term goose up the stock price and nothing further. So
yeah, all it is short-term games. It's not like people really make an effort to do long-term investments anymore anyways. But it's never like... It's just weird that it's weird that they decide to do that to us, frame it like we're the problem.
Do you have anything you'd like to share that we haven't discussed yet?
Not really. Just want to shout out to Chad. I saw you guys are live streaming. Follow Status Coup. They show the real worker news here. All right, you guys have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it. All right, so we're going to head up back to the main gate. We've got a little bit of a group here now that wasn't there, but it looks like it's grown a little bit. So if you're just joining us, we are live streaming from the Wayne Ford plant. This is in Wayne, Michigan. This is an assembly plant. The last few days we've been at the parts and distribution centers. This is an assembly plant, so this is where they put cars together. There's very few of these locations on strike because these were the initial part of the initial group. We didn't add Ford ones because Ford came to the table with concessions. They're willing to add COLA back. They're going to cut down on the tiers. Temporary workers are now 90 days to go to full time. They also conceded to the ability to strike at plants that are looking to be closed by the company.
So we still have over 1,000 people watching. We only have 800 and something, 830 likes. So let's try and get to 1,000 likes. And also we need members. All right. I believe we have 7 new members that joined today. We need 13 more to keep us out here, keep us on the ground reporting on these stories. So if you're not a member already, please become a member. StatusCoup.com/join. $5 to $10 a month. That's 16 cents a day.
All right. We have a couple new super chats. That's very exciting. Golden Taurus Finance, $5. Thank you, Golden Taurus Finance. If EV is going to cost jobs, then why don't they keep everyone and do 32 hours a week? You know, I think EV is kind of being turned into a talking point here when the real story is about labor. So if we have a just transition, which is how Sean Fain is putting it, then you have all of these workers retrained. They're able to go to the EV plants. Those are going to be unionized plants, not non-union. And that just takes some planning and a transition. It's not an impossibility. I think the UAW recognizes that that is the future. And it's not just EV. You also have companies working on hydrogen fuel cells and all kinds of crazy things. So, again, I don't think labor has to be left behind. I think there's a way to do it. And Sean has a plan for that. All right, $40 from Larry. Thank you, Larry. That's great, $40. Excellent interviews and reporting on the scene. Keep up your hard work. Thank you, Larry. We appreciate that. And then we have new members on StatusCoup.com. Christopher, welcome. Vincent, Gerald, Tracy, Mary, welcome all of you. We appreciate you joining. John's walking backwards with the camera right now. So across the way from us on the opposite side of the street, that's where the Union Hall is. And you can see there's still some media set up here. They've been reporting here all day. Obviously, Biden is in town. He did not come to this location as originally thought. He was down the street. Yeah, I agree. Hey, how are you?
You guys are looking for someone to interview?
Yes.
Her name is Holly. I'm going to go tell her you guys.
Oh, okay. Awesome. That'd be great. We'd love to talk to her. Appreciate that. So lots of support from the community. We've seen everywhere we've gone, actually, people, drive by honking in support. Seen very few people that are against the UAW strikers. They all seem to be supporting them. Every now and then you'll see someone, but it's not common. So smaller group than what was here earlier. But there's still people out here. I love this burn barrel. Get a shot of that, John. It's got UAW cut into it, so you see it coming through the... Hello, how are you?
What's COUP?
Status Coup. That's the name of our news organization. Would you like to talk to us?
I'm not a striker.
But you're here in solidarity?
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. You are a union person, though, right?
Yeah, I worked at Chrysler Warren Truck Assembly
Okay, so...
for 11 years, and then I worked for the union itself for 23
okay.
years. We have an education program, and I was teaching classes and developing curriculum.
Oh, nice.
And I wrote for the magazine.
What kind of curriculum did they have? Would this be related to union union work, auto work?
All the union skills, bargaining skills.
Oh,
I mainly
nice.
focus on labor history.
Oh, I
That's a
didn't
lot
know
of
you
people
guys
don't
did
know.
that. No, so I
My
mean,
wife's a labor historian too.
okay, I mean that's a big deal. So let's talk a little bit about that. The history of the labor movement. We have to thank for so many things that we take for granted now. One of which would be the 40-hour work week. What are some of the other things that people should know about the labor union that they don't know that are important?
Well, I'm one generation away from a child laborer. My dad dropped out in the 7th grade. He ended up working in a steel mill in Donora, Pennsylvania, south of Pittsburgh. And so the first major attempt to organize mass production industries was in 1919. He was a 14-year-old kid. And he stood with the union on the Monongahela Bridge. And so then he came up to Detroit and became a charter member of his local, the parts supplier, Borg Warner, and which meant that he was one of the first people to sign a union card. So I grew up in a union household, and we used to watch the Guy Nunn show. He was the host, but it was a UAW show from Canada because we couldn't get any American.
Yeah, American. It had to be Canadian.
They wouldn't let him in. So I grew up in that, and so I remember when we. My dad got dental coverage in this contract because it was the first time I could go to a dentist and not have it yanked out. I could actually get it filled.
Yeah.
I mean, those kind of things mean a lot. But I think the most important thing was that unions really changed the lifestyle for millions of other people. Because at that time we were strong enough to set the standard. Now it's Toyota and Walmart and they set the standard, which unfortunately is lower. But I really want to see what comes out of this is more of a labor community alliance where we fight for everybody. So I want unions to not only fight for higher pay, but also fight for the right to vote, women's right, abortion rights, the George Floyd Policing Act, and those kind of things.
Right, solidarity across the board. So child labor, I mean, it's crazy that you bring this up, but it wasn't that long ago that was still part of the fabric in this country. So, without unions, God knows we might still have child labor. We currently have in 2023, this is crazy, but we currently have politicians that kind of loosely and casually mention bringing back child labor. Like, maybe we should just get rid of child labor laws, which is shocking to me. Why do you think why are we going backwards like that?
Well, that's crazy, especially with automation in all production and in offices and so on. We really need to be talking about a shorter work week where people can spend more time going to school with their families, educating, doing. My wife was a life education advisor at the Ford Rouge plant, and those guys were skilled tradesmen who made the top pay, and her job was to encourage them to go back to school, and they loved it. And it wasn't necessarily going to get them a higher paying job because they already had the highest paying, but they loved the education, the opportunity to think, and so they weren't just doers, they were thinkers too.
Right, no, and that's a good point. Pinkertons, I remember the Pinkertons were a thing. Did you ever fight with any of the Pinkertons?
No, but I think the Pinkertons were there in 1919 supporting
Management.
Andrew Carnegie.
Right.
Andrew Carnegie was a Scotsman. My dad was a Scotsman. And I said, well, why don't you like him? He's a Scotsman. He says, he's no Scots.
He's no friend to labor.
He's no friend. He's a bloody capitalist. That's how he talked back then. My dad wasn't political, but there's things that he picked up, from kind of European style of trade unionism,
right,
which we didn't really have in this country.
No, we didn't.
But that's what I like to see come out of this strike, why we come down to support, is to try to rebuild that old sense, right, good old unionism. And back when the UAW organized in Flint, there was a lot of community support, and it wasn't just showing up for a couple minutes, but it was small businesses that provided food, farmers that brought food, the women, the wives, and the women in the community kept the sit-down strikers from being evicted by the police.
Right.
So it really was what they term is class struggle, and we're all workers. We need to think of ourselves as workers. You're
Indeed.
a worker. He's a worker.
Oh, I'm 100% a worker. I too am a union member, full disclosure. Not this union, obviously, but I am a union member. Let me ask you this. For a long time, unions really have been beaten down in the country. They were starting to disappear. Membership was dwindling, all through the late 80s into the 90s, and then just stagnant, nothing. But the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 years, mainly, but also going back through the first Bernie Sanders campaign, I think that kind of ignited a reawakening in workers' rights and labor in the country. I feel like it's kind of unstoppable now because it's spread like fire. It's, not everywhere yet, but it's definitely increasing. We have Amazon is finally looking to have union outfits there. Starbucks, companies that, you never thought you'd see unionized are becoming unionized. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think most people are realizing that the middle class is declining, that there's more inequality than people have ever known. I'm with a group called Jobs with Justice, which is a union community faith coalition, and we do a workshop called Reversing Runaway Inequality. So what I learned from that is back in the 70s, the ratio of the top CEO and the worker was 40-1.
Yeah.
Now
it was as low as 20-1 at midpoint, but
it's 700-1.
Well, let's see. Is that the metric for all? So it's like 400-1 for autos, but you have other industries that are worse.
Top 100 corporations, yeah.
Wow.
But if you compare it to European countries and Canada, there's much more equality.
Right.
And I know Americans really have a sense of fairness, and even Republicans feel that the ratio should be 12-1. Okay. Democrats say 7-1. So we're not that far apart in terms of economic equality. And because corporations don't pay their fair share of taxes that they used to, we have less money for schools and health care and all the other things that make life endurable.
Yeah. In fact, I always love to bring this metric up because people are shocked by it. They don't know it. During the Eisenhower years, at one point, you had a top marginal tax rate of 92%.
Yes. Well, that was above a certain amount. So they weren't going broke.
No. In case I should explain that in case people don't realize that marginal rates don't apply to all of the money you make. It gets tiered up as you increase in your pay, but 92% was the highest rate.
They always had a tax break on Social Security too.
Yeah, 100%. And let me drive this home. Ronald Reagan, that incredibly famous lefty Ronald Reagan, under most of his terms, it was 50%.
Yeah, that's right. And but I think if we really try to get over the hang-ups that people have about sexuality and abortion and so on, there's things that we disagree on. But I think what we can agree on is everybody deserves a good life. And there's a guy he's a Texas populist, Jim Hightower.
Oh, Jim Hightower, yeah.
He says we all do better when we all do better.
That's right.
Okay.
In fact, I remember Jim Hightower, I believe, was a consultant on the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign.
I think he was, yeah.
Yeah, Jim's a good guy. What do you think is the most important concession the union can get on this particular round of negotiations? I think COLA obviously is important, getting back the cost of living, getting rid of the temporary worker thing is crazy to me.
Yeah, when I hired in at Chrysler, it took 90 days to get it to a full-time status and full pay and benefits. For people to wait 8 years is just unfair. And they're doing the same work with somebody across the line who's getting full pay and benefits. And they're
not only do they wait 8 years, but then they get moved over into full time. And when they get moved over into full time, they're losing hourly wages. One guy we talked to lost $10 an hour.
You better repeat what you just said.
Solidarity. They lose wages when they get moved over to full time. I talked to one guy, $2 an hour less when he moved to full time. One guy actually told us he dropped $10 an hour in wages because he'd been temporary for so long.
I didn't know that either.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I like I said, I used to write for Solidarity, but I retired in 2008. My wife and I wanted to work on the Obama campaign, so I had a year. I could have stayed another year, but there's a lot of things I haven't been able to keep up with, and what you described is just horrendous.
That's how bad it is.
That's horrendous. Yeah.
So for folks that, when they finally hear these stories from the workers, I think all of a sudden they're like, well, hang on a second. If that's the case, I don't see how you can make make this thing where they're the greedy ones, trying to just, bilk money from the economy and from consumers and a lot of the companies, whatever. No, there's legitimate beefs that they have that I think just about anybody, when they hear the story, can kind of relate to, right?
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, today I'm wearing a T-shirt from 6 years ago, and this was
Fight for 15. Now it's fight for 25.
Well, it's for, yeah, you're right. This was people who were fighting for fast food workers and people who worked at other restaurants and so on. So I still wear it because we can't forget the millions of people that don't have a union contract.
Right. And in fact, let me ask you something specifically that I learned here in Michigan about Michigan. I was talking to one of our waitresses at some place we were having dinner, and she's getting paid $3.60 an hour, and I'm like, wait, what did you just say?
Yeah.
How is that legal? It's. I know it's a carve out because they get tips, but it seems to me that should just not even be legal. That's what happens if people don't tip you.
Well, that's one thing that needs to be fixed in raising the minimum wage. In most countries, they don't tip because they're getting paid a good living wage. And that's how it should be here. But there's so much of our society and our politics that are carryovers from slavery.
Yes.
I mean, we don't make the kind of social justice progress and economic justice progress because we're still operating under the same rules that they did in 1776. Those weren't good rules. So that gave basically political power to those slave states, and they still continue to wield power. So they try to close down the government and things like that. But that's, we have a different history in this country, and I just heard that Norway has amended their constitution 3,000 times. And what have we done it maybe 30 times or something?
Yeah, about 30, I suppose.
Yeah. But we would be a lot, because if you look at the polls, 90% of Americans want gun reform.
Right.
70-80% support women's rights, abortion rights. Just on down the line, all the progressive issues you can think of. And then everything gets distorted when we start talking about transgender kids and stuff, just stuff that really government should not be meddling in.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's wild that this has become a thing in 2023, but it's definitely becoming a thing. A lot of hate involved in that. I've been to some of these rallies, and a lot of anti-homophobic rhetoric, hate that I haven't seen in a long time, bubbling up to the top, and it's just kind of shocking to me.
You saw it here at the UAW lanes?
No, not here. This has been great. Okay. I'm thankful to be here. We've been here, all 12 days of this. I've been here 5 days now, but this has been a great covering the union work. I've been covering other protests like Trump protests and things like this.
Where are you from?
I'm from Los Angeles.
Los Angeles?
Yeah, we have...
So what is this?
Status Coup. You'll have to come and find us on YouTube. We're a large YouTube channel. You're live right now. Say hi.
Hi.
and this is your lovely wife, I'm assuming? Yeah.
Okay. My publicist.
Thank you for talking with us.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
What's your name?
It was very informative. I'm Tina. Nice to meet you.
Good. What's your name?
John. I'm from New York.
So that was great. It's great to hear from, an older, you've been through involved in the labor movement for so long. I mean, we could all learn from hearing your story. So I think you appreciate you talking to me about that.
Appreciate you guys coming.
So I think the other gal came back over. I saw her. The wife is always in charge. So you didn't hear that, but she said, oh, hell yeah. Hang on a second. Did she come back over? Or?
She asked me, it was supposed to be in Spanish. They wanted her to speak in Spanish, whoever it was.
Oh, that's not us.
That's what I told her.
Hey, so I know we got a couple more likes here. I know we're close, maybe like 9 away from 1,000 likes. So let's try and get to 1,000 over if we can. We still have 1,000 people watching. And I'll say it again, we need more members. We need more people to sign up. This reporting, being on the ground here for 12 days straight, it gets expensive between hotel, food, rental car, the flights here. It's expensive. The live view is expensive. So if you appreciate our reporting, if you want us to stay out here, And if you want to hear the workers' story, keep us here. Become a member. Go to StatusCoup.com/join. Only 16 cents a day. All right, we're gonna try and get a few more people before we shut down the live. The main gate here did clear up a little bit. There's still quite a few people out here, but now they're spread out to different gates along this road. So Tina's trying to get somebody else to come over and speak to us. I'm going to text Colin. Colin, if we have any more super chats or any more updates, please send that my way. I will read them off. All right, I know we got a bunch of members today. I'm not sure. I know the last number was 7 new members, but hopefully we get more. All right, Tina's coming back.
That is it. All right, so the other folks that we wanted to talk to actually got swept away. They're no longer here. So we've been live for almost 3 hours today. We interviewed a lot of people, talked to a lot of people. I loved being able to talk to the labor leader from Toronto. He had some interesting thoughts. So tomorrow, make sure you turn in tomorrow. We will be interviewing Dr. Cornell West. He's going to be here at the Ford facility in the morning. I think around 10 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. I believe we got all of the super chats. If I didn't, we have funky internet here. If I didn't get to you today, I will definitely get to you tomorrow. We appreciate the super chats. I did. There's. All right, so we will see you all tomorrow. Please make sure you join us. Dr. Cornell West will be here. We will be interviewing him about 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Time. And again, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for your super chat donations. And those of you that became members, we appreciate that. Your membership dues are what fund our trips. And we want to stay out here doing what we're doing. And then Jordan's going to be coming back into town after I leave. So we're going to continue to tag team the UAW strikes for as long as they're going on. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.